With any hope this is working. Hi, I am Sax Carr, and you're watching Phoenix Dawn Command here on Saving Throw Show. This is the world premiere of this game being played live anywhere. Which now you can see me, which is good news. This is the first time ever that anyone's going to see this played live, unless, I suppose if you saw it actually being played at Gen Con, that counts as being live. You get the idea. First stream of this thing. And I actually played this game for the first time about 2 years ago when Keith Baker, who created this game, and also Eberron and Gloom, was just sort of wandering around testing it out with groups of players. And I sat down a really cool game with the folks who make Hero Forge minis. Had reached out to him about some other stuff, and we sat down and played it, and it was fantastic then. It took 2 years to go from his initial concepts to the game that we are playing today. It has gotten, if anything, better. So I hope you're going to really enjoy this. It's a very unique game. There are no character sheets. There are no dice. And there's no experience system. In fact, the only way that any of the players here today are going to, if you will, level up is by dying. And I'm sure that you already have a lot of questions about that. But,
we do.
Essentially, I will answer the biggest question anyone ever has about this. If the only way to level up is dying, why don't you just die all the time? And the answer is because you only get 7. You only get 7, and also being dead is really inconvenient for a few days' time. So it sucks when you're like the only one left because your friends have all died. So you get the idea. As personified well in the movie Casper the Friendly Ghost. No. We're gonna play the first adventure from the book today. We're eventually gonna sort of strike out on our own in subsequent weeks and move off into some adventures that I write and sort of tell a new story for Phoenix Dawn Command. But for today, in this version, in the one that you can't donate to mess with, we're going to be playing the first adventure as suggested here in the book, as written by Keith Baker. Before we get any further, let me introduce the cast. So I'll have them introduce themselves. So let's start with Mac.
Hey, I am Mac Beauvais, also known as Strange Like That. I kind of do a little bit of everything in the day-to-day. I'm a cosplayer, actor, I write for Geek and Sundry, just kind of anything and everything I get my paws on. I get bored really easily.
I'm Robert Chan, at 999 RPMs. I podcast and I write.
Hi. Oh, yeah. Hi. I'm Tara Strand. My main sort of geeky claim to fame is being one of the first original Batman cosplay groups, Gotham Public Works, Harley Quinn. And I'm an actress as well, tarastrand.com. Sideshow stunts, sideshowsirens.com. And other performance stuff, physical theater, clowning, that kind of thing. That's what I remember right now. All right.
Cool. And I'm Michael Holmes. You can find me on Instagram at Michael R. Holmes. My tagline is I'm a creative type armed with a D20 and a love of two-tone ska. I'm a writer, actor, occasionally director, and I want to work with you.
Oh,
Nice. Oh.
That was cool.
In a non-creeper way.
Or
Maybe.
a creeper way.
Or maybe, I don't know.
Whatever works
Message
for you.
me, yeah.
And I'm the marshal of this game. I'm Sax Carr. I'm one of the supervising producers here on Saving Throw. I'm often on the other side of the camera, where right now we have our good friend Sam Proof. Which you cannot see or hear, but is totally there. Sam Proof, basically a streaming legend, and Twitch exists today because of the work of fine gentlemen like him. Also programmers. But I'm here now because I also DM. I run a lot of games. I actually play 3 times a week right now because I'm really dedicated to my gaming career getting in the way of my career. And I'm going to be running this game. Let's start a little bit with what the world of Phoenix is. You might as well just assume it is very similar to the world of Dungeons & Dragons. It's different in a lot of ways, but essentially we're around that time period. It's sort of a mix between like classical looks. You'll see if anyone wants to throw a card or two in front of the card cam there. Like there's sort of like a Greco-Roman feel to the art style, but this is also sort of a little more modern than that. Like maybe the clothing hasn't evolved, but there's still crossbows and Greek fire. I guess Greek fire of Greeks makes sense. And but the primary change here is that magic generally, or the supernatural, has been basically beaten back in this world. There was a time a long time ago where there were great wars where people were using magic like crazy, and it was very detrimental. And then that was all sort of put a stop to for hundreds of years. And even then, back in the day, and now, there was the Phoenixes, which are like sort of resurrected people who come back with special powers and come back again and again with more and more power, and they use that power for good to sort of hold back the tide of evil. And eventually, there reached a time where there was no magic and no Phoenixes, and then the Phoenixes came back, and then a few years later, a couple decades later, so too did some evil things. So too did the danger, the dread, which is the great sort of antagonist of this game. And the dread has many forms, and so the Phoenixes are no one asks to be a Phoenix. You don't train to become a Phoenix. You don't sort of go to Phoenix school. You die. All these Phoenix characters were mortals first, and then they died, and instead of going to whatever their afterlife might have been, they go to what's called the Crucible, where they sort of go through a series of tests, and they grow strong, and they gain their abilities, and they gain the understanding of what it is to be a Phoenix, and they test their heroic nature, and then if they can pass those tests, they move on, and they come back, and they become a Phoenix, and they're reborn from the central Imperial fire on the island of Pyre, and then from there, they're sort of set out like almost like supernatural special forces all around the world, and they form naturally into wings. So the players today are all part of a new wing that now, while these 4 characters all died recently, although the Crucible takes different amounts of time for everybody. So you might have died 200 years ago, but everyone's back now. This is a recently resurrected wing. They're all sort of fresh, new, young Phoenixes. But the Phoenix energy that resurrected them is eternal. And so they may be taking the place of a previous wing that went through all 7 of its generations, or they're taking the place of a wing that hasn't been resurrected yet in the modern era, that was from thousands of years ago, that is just now sparked back to life. So while they have the sort of memories of their old life, of their life before they died, while they have this sort of person that they also have this Phoenix energy, which is sort of animating their body now. And both those things contribute to being the character that they are today. And that's nice and confusing, but you're going to see more of it. So
we don't know what we're doing either. It's okay.
Yeah.
So before we meet Pyre and walk around, let's talk a little bit about the characters and who they are. So we'll start here with you, Mike. So who is your Phoenix?
Okay. Each Phoenix takes on a sort of nom de guerre, if you will, a cog in game terms, and my guy is named Ink. He is basically the rogue class of Phoenix Dawn Command, and he is a shrouded. He's a Mediterranean-looking kid, probably about 19 years old. He's got curly black hair that he has in a ponytail. He's got kind of surprisingly light blue eyes and like olive skin. He wears a white robe, and over that he's got this blue-black cloak. And he carries around a sort of tarnished copper stylus.
All Phoenixes have a talon, which is like an item that comes back with them. So obviously these Phoenixes are going to die in these games that we're playing, and when they get resurrected, they always come back with their uniform and their talon. So
the stylus is his talon.
That's right.
Yeah.
And the blue-black cloak, for example, might be your uniform.
Correct.
So Ink, of course, is his name now, is his cog, and he was someone else before when he died, and we'll meet that person a little bit later. To start, we know what you look like. Let's look at some of the things that we answer about our Phoenixes here.
Capricorn, pizza, and the second Nirvana album.
Well, what person, place, or thing was most important to you before you died?
That would be knowledge.
Knowledge?
Yeah.
What is your greatest fear?
That I will meet my final death before I've written the words that I will be remembered for.
Ooh, very nice. And we'll talk a little bit more about your connection with the other Phoenixes in a second. Cool. Now, there are 6 schools, or 6 classes, if you will, in this game. There's Shrouded, Devoted, Forceful, Bitter, Elemental, and Durant. Those are the 6 classes. There's only ever 4 in a given game, although we, for this purposes of the stream, may sneak in a 5th every now and again. And there's only ever 1 of each. So you are the Shrouded Phoenix for this wing. And you are sort of like a combination between like an alchemist and a thief is sort of your Shrouded character. Yeah. So Tara, who are you?
Hi, so I am a Devoted, which that's basically like your healers, empaths, diplomats, all around cheerleaders, all around, helper guys. My character is named Idalia. She is me-ish looking, but taller. Sort of like purplish hair with like gold streaks, kind of a golden tunic with sort of this like loose metal cage armor that complements her talon, which is a diadem that a lot of her powers are sort of stellar-based, suns and stars and things, so like gravitational forces and electromagnetic radiation forces, and so that's how she channels them. And maybe slightly bluish skin. I think if she dies, it'll probably get more bluer. Her eyes will look more like a nebula, that kind of a thing. And that's her appearance. That's what she does.
So as phoenixes come back, they get further and further from their mortal life. So you may start looking a lot like you did before you died, maybe a little different, and then 7 deaths from now, you might be a centaur. It just happens. You basically get resurrected more and more like the sort of ideal you're driving towards. And I should also point out, we're going to learn that each one of their abilities, like being a devoted, being a shrouded, comes from the manner of your death. So Ink died in the pursuit of knowledge, or from lack of knowledge, or from learning arcane knowledge. And Idalia died protecting others because she's devoted. Now, as they die more in game, they'll gain powers from the schools relevant to that death. So Michael's character will always be the Shrouded Phoenix and will always be based around the sort of stealthy powers. But if Michael went on from now to die protecting his wingmates every time, he would be drawing powers from the upgrade cards that are available to her school, and so on and so forth. So that's sort of how you sort of change your character as you grow forward. And as you might imagine, because the way that deaths are sort of classified is a little nebulous, a lot of times you get to pick. So, like, for example, we're going to meet right now Mac. Well, we'll meet Mac last, but Mac is the bitter. Bitters die in failure.
Also in the game.
Yes. So bitters die in failure. Presumably, if you were trying to save your friends and you died doing it, you could classify that as a death by failure and a death saving your friends. So it basically becomes the player's choice going forward. So how you die doesn't necessarily fit exclusively into one school. What is your character's greatest fear?
People dying a death that she could have prevented somehow.
Very on theme, I like it.
Yeah, and there's some backstory to that too.
And is there anything from your previous life that your character still thinks about or misses?
My kid.
Okay, your kid. Very nice. All right, so Chan, who are you?
His name is Eerie. It's think of like one of those creepy little kids from a Japanese horror movie, or like when you see a spider like 6-7 feet away from you, like, man, that's pretty creepy. And then it goes like, and you're terrified because it shouldn't move that fast. He moves really fast and is, uncomfortable to look at, uncomfortable to think about, just generally unpleasant. Mm-hmm. He looks like maybe like a 10-year-old kid, something like that, and kind of has a problem with that. Mm-hmm. Just like a small Napoleon complex, how the small person's like, yeah, I'll fight you.
What does your talent look like?
Knife. Mm-hmm. Lots of knives.
All right, it is plural knives. And you're the forceful Phoenix. Forceful is sort of the warrior class, but they are based around speed, or they can be. There are ways to sort of take each one of these schools in their own sort of in like various directions. But you have one of the 2 basic builds is more of a speed build. So you actually move with like a sort of like flash-like unearthly speed. And so there's a lot to go. There's a lot to learn about that school, which we will as we go on. So we're going to meet Mac's character a little bit more intimately. First off, tell us, before we tell, do you know your character's initial name? Do you want to tell us that?
Yeah, so her initial name was actually Atla. When she came back, her cog became Varya, which is actually means stranger. She is of the bitter class. Bitters are... like Zach said, they died in failure, and generally they're very rough and tumble. They're more tanks. Varya was a berserker, so she came back very much encompassing that berserker nature. So she's got the dark black hair, her eyes are a little too yellow, teeth are a little too sharp. Everything about her feels just a little off, like she's actually starting, instead of just that mental shift of becoming that animal she was channeling, physically starting to become that as well. And there's an actual real fear with the bidder class. They don't know exactly why this school started, where they came from, and that they may become essentially the monsters they're fighting against.
So each one of these schools has been around for a long time, and there are marshals for each school, which are like the oldest, like 7th generation, but been around forever. You know, got to their 7th iteration, then didn't die for like 200 years. Phoenixes, which are the sort of leaders of the Phoenix groups, and it's that they're even as powerful as they are, they're better leading Phoenixes than they are at like going out and doing their own stuff. They're also too valuable to risk. There is no bidder marshal because the bidder haven't been around long enough for that to be the case. And so the culture of the sort of bidder Phoenixes is basically being formed as we go. So let's actually start by having a little storytelling from Mac here. Take us to the moment of your first death. What is so? How does what is is it? I forget your characters for your non-cog.
Oh, Atla?
How does Atla die?
So Atla was actually a part of a tribe out in the deep Grimwald, and the tribes out there, some of them are a little more peaceful, some just want to be left alone. Hers was a more warring tribe. It wasn't necessarily that they were trying to conquer, but trying to survive. The deep Grimwald is a very rainforested area. It's very spread out. It's a very harsh environment to live in. So that was what they did, is they'd go out and they would, you know, if they had to take from someone else for them to survive, that's what they did. But that selfishness was part of her downfall. They actually got caught off guard when the dread started to come back and attack, and because they had kept themselves so insular from the rest of the world, they didn't know that this dread was creeping up and that it was a bigger threat to the world and to them. And so she died in a sneak attack from the dread.
So what is the actual physical moment of death? How did they kill you?
You know, it's the dread they don't play nice, and so they came up from behind, and it was a stab right in the back.
And what was your character's conception of death? Like, what did you think the afterlife was before?
Well, her hope and part of her tribe's belief system is that you die and you die in honor and you get to go join the spirits of the wild. You become part of nature. That's really what their entire world is built on, is that everything is nature, everything comes from nature, everything goes back to nature. So going through and being put in the crucible is a little bit like, what the hell is happening here? Did I do something wrong because I'm not going where I was told I'm supposed to go?
So you die, you're stabbed in the back, the world is becoming a pinprick of light, you're sort of grasping for life, and you're trying to sort of pull again against that like sort of animalistic side has kept you alive so many times, and it just isn't working, and then you're gone. But then it goes from black to fire, and all you see is fire, and that fire sort of spreads out in front of you, and eventually it sort of passes, and you fall into the crucible. And what does that look like for you?
The crucible, I think, would probably be the opposite of the nature she was growing in. It would just feel empty and void. It would feel like it was lifeless. Okay. Aside from fire.
So you're in this lifeless void, and what kind of tests did you encounter? Like how did you pass your crucible? What were the challenges it presented you, or was it simply just empty for a long time and then you got better?
I think there would be a lot of stubbornness, just will to survive, and that it really would be a lot of just stumbling around in nothingness and trying to come to grips with the idea that maybe that's all there is. And really, it was a lot of time. She was already a fighter, so it's not like she needed those skills to learn how to fight. It was about understanding the ways of her tribe, and that maybe there wasn't the way that they should have done things, that maybe they were harming other people. And so I think it was more of a mental challenge for her to be accepting of what her back history was and how she could be better, and that she needed to do right by more than just her tribe.
So you come to that realization, you're in this endless weird void that isn't the afterlife you were promised. Unlike unlike almost every Phoenix you'll later learn, there isn't any specific mentor there for you. You don't know why. And eventually, just in this emptiness, you make this realization. And it's like a key is turned. And then that fire is back, And this time it doesn't go away, and you actually step forth out of it, out of the Imperial pyre, out of the Imperial flame, right in the middle of the island of Pyre, and you've come back as a phoenix, and you are already different. You can tell. First off, you're dressed in your uniform. You know, your axe is with you, which is your talon. You can feel that your uniform and you are much less separate than they used to be, and maybe you look a little bit different. You know, you can tell. You feel different, but you also feel like 10 feet tall. You feel like there's a, I don't want to say superior sort of feeling, but like you realize now that you're superhuman. It's your nature, and all the sort of understanding of what it is to be a phoenix comes flooding into you. Meanwhile, there's all these guys in togas there, like the human attendants of the phoenixes, who are like applauding a newly born phoenix, and like people are running out with like oils and water to like anoint you, and there's like and people they're sending messages out like new phoenix born, and
No thanks, I'm good.
and we'll learn more about the Imperial Flame in a second, because you guys will all come back there as a wing, but they sort of, they take you out, and like you're sort of, a little receptive to being sort of pushed around a bit because you're so confused by what's going on, and you're like breathing and feeling and hearing again much more than you ever did in the Crucible. And they push you out onto the island of Pyre, which is a big volcanic island, and there are all these buildings here, some of which are like carved into the rock, some of which are actual structures, and there's, sort of people wandering back and forth, this whole like legions of soldiers moving back and forth. There's other phoenixes, like some of them are like doing jobs, some of them are at play. You see someone like run forth and like jump 3 stories up onto the top of a building, which is stuff that never you would have possibly encountered in your real life. And they sort of lead you to your room, which is like, by comparison to your previous lifestyle, quite opulent. And they sort of leave you there like everything's going to make sense, because most of these phoenixes had a mentor who was like, okay, you're gonna get out of here, and they're gonna put you up in a room. Don't use the towels. Like, I mean, like they got a lot more of a talking to, and all you know is that like you have this sort of feeling that there's a pack for you, that there's this group for you that you're supposed to be part of, and you know that you have a heroic purpose now, and some sort of redemption for the mistakes that your tribe made. And then we're gonna flash forward a little bit further than that, and you've met these 3. And you guys have sort of been introduced. You understand that you're part of the same wing. People, the hardest thing about being a young phoenix is that, for most people here, this is the millionth time this has happened. So like they're like, oh, and here are your wingmates, which clearly you'll all be friends with, and they give you no reasons why, and they wander off, and there's a lot of sort of like, oh, you'll do this and that, and this is how it's all going to work out, because this wing has existed before, let alone there have been, there are 12 or so other wings in operation at any given time. And you sort of get to know each other, and you maybe do a little bit of sort of like, sparring or adventuring on Pyre. And the question becomes, what is the name of your wing?
Well, I guess the biggest question would have to be relevant to why any of us came back.
Well, there was a job left to be finished, I suppose.
I had unfinished business as well.
Then it seems maybe it was a matter of justice.
Perhaps. Retribution?
Completion?
Eerie?
What do you think?
I know naming things isn't a lot of fun.
We'll take suggestions from chat too. What should the name of this wing be? If they've got anything.
It feels like it should serve for what our purpose is.
Which I think you got a good start on there. We've got a job to finish. We've got unfinished business.
Because personally, I'd go with revenge, but I don't think that's really
Right.
the cards
That's
for
unfinished
everyone
business,
else.
though.
Personally, I'd like to minimize any sort of negative emotion we can, now that we've been given a second or third or
Agreed.
fourth or fifth or sixth or seventh lease on life.
Justice Wing is definitely trending well. We've also got the Dark Night Wing. Although Nightwing would work.
Can we still put in Tangy Buffalo?
Buffalo Wing.
Nightwing, like the guy from the early 2000s comic who wasn't actually Dick Grayson. He was another guy calling himself Nightwing, but it was an ITE wing.
So the dark version of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Nightwing.
Someone has suggested Rising Flame.
Rising
that's good.
Flame. The
Pretty
Finishers.
specific. Finisher. There's got to be another word for
completionists.
finish. I know. I'm like, there's another word that sounds schmancy. That's for like
Reborn. It says Matt 510M.
finish it.
What about the Revenants?
Done. The Revenant.
If you want to go obscure, sure.
I've spent a lot of time reading books. I know many expensive words.
It is done.
Are we zombies?
No, but we're
Are we
reborn.
zombies?
I kind of
Mark
Yeah.
wing.
That is definitely the name of the first
I don't
album
hate it.
for your wing.
The undead.
Are We Zombies is a good name for a wing. Give some more chat suggestions. It looks like here. You could also it can be like a one word. It can be blank wing. It doesn't have to have a name per se. So it can be Fire Wing, or it can be Alpha Wing, or it can be Buffalo Wing. It doesn't matter. The Requiem, the Destined, the Unabridged, Retributioners,
How about the living?
the Living Wing.
Oh.
Sort of an interesting sideways choice.
I kind of like
Especially from a creepy Japanese kid.
I don't know. I kind of like the Reborn.
Well, how about this? Let's.
It's a little too on the nose, though.
Maybe.
Okay, sure.
The flame thing too. would be
Can,
a little on the
can either
nose.
of my erstwhile producers do a straw poll?
Yeah, I'll get that. So.
Okay, well, so let's each one of the four of you contribute one option, and we'll straw poll it, and the chat will pick one.
Justice.
Justice Wing,
Reborn.
Reborn Wing, or the Reborn.
The Reborn,
the
yeah,
Reborn.
yeah.
Justice Wing, the Reborn.
Success. I don't know.
Success Wing, which I kind of like.
Just the mean little kid.
We're gonna have a wing. It's gonna be great.
Excelsior. No, that's
Excelsior?
like.
No,
okay.
do you have one? Do you want to contribute?
The living, I think. Is
The Living. Okay. So the Living,
Justice.
Justice,
Reborn.
Reborn, Success.
Sure. I like the living because we're trying to get everybody to live.
Yeah.
That's our whole thing.
And Sam, is there one the chat is gravitating towards that you want to add to the straw poll, or do you want to just go with those four?
So the living, justice, success, and what was the other one?
The Reborn.
The Reborn.
Succession, is that a word?
Succession.
No, that's secession. I'm thinking of. Never mind. That's very different.
Succession is a word.
That's very different.
Yeah, neither are appropriate in
No.
this circumstance.
No.
Unless we just want to secede from
Yeah.
it.
from failure.
Thanks for bringing us back from the
We want to
dead.
secede from failure.
We're gonna go.
This is the story of the wing that left.
We out.
um,
TBD wing out.
7 more times, you say? Awesome.
gonna go enjoy some lives. See ya. Be back next time on Reborn.
Sieben auf einen Streich.
Yeah.
7 in one stroke.
All right. So
Just those four?
just those four. Those are the four options. Although again, if the chat can really gravitate towards something that isn't like taco wing,
Let
we'll
me float this
definitely.
real quick. What's your initial sort of gut reaction as the opposite of the dread? Like when I say dread, the antonym of that in your mind is?
Me.
Hope?
Yeah, it'd probably be hope.
Hope.
Yeah.
Let's add hope. See what they think.
Prosperity? Prosperity
That's a
wing?
whole other thing.
Okay.
Dreading.
Does anyone, one of you producers
you
want to
are.
pick
I
up
mean,
the what is the what are listed
Excited.
antonyms to dread on thesaurus?
Thesaurus. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's your bag. Okay.
Joy Division.
Put that in.
I
Let's
like
see if
that.
they
Actually,
although considering its actual reference, maybe not.
Yeah, no,
I actually
no, not so much.
and that guy died pretty bad, so
Yeah.
I don't know.
Cheerfully withdrawn.
New order. We'll just move on to the. Okay. No.
The Smiths.
Which early '80s band will this group be named after?
Although the Reborn does already sound a little
totally
like
does.
that.
I'm pretty sure there is like a dark wave band of that name. Or
Yeah.
No, wait a minute. There are no cars in this world, so it could just be called the Cars. And no one will know that.
It's a mythological machine from a world
And your
far
marshal's
apart
name
from
is
ours.
Rick Ocasek. What do we have for what are antonyms to dread?
Pulling that up right now.
Okay.
If you're not dreading something, you're excited about it.
The
The
anticipation
eager.
wing. Yeah.
Anticipation.
It's just awkward.
We are
We're just sitting around
excited.
just waiting. It's coming.
Are pleasant, pleasing, wonderful, welcomed.
Blech.
No.
No.
Turns
Even though I
out.
think
Never
that's maybe
mind.
a little saccharine. All right.
All right, so go ahead and put out the straw poll, and while that's happening, I'll buy us some time while we talk about one more thing. So, relevant, apropos to today's game, but also just generally speaking, let's talk about almost like bonds between the various wingmates. Okay, so Ink, which of your wingmates have you bonded with the most? Which one do you trust the most? and this will be a relevant game effect, and just has to. And no offense to anybody if there's, I mean, to be fair, Mac's character is basically a werewolf, so it's okay if no one picks her. Or okay
I don't like any of you.
Or it's okay if everyone picks her, because that's cool.
I mean, we'll get more into Ink's background, the further down we get, and he is still kind of spotty in his remembering of his previous life, but he remembers that he was a child of wealth and opportunity, but he was kind of a nerdy kid at the same time. And he feels a connection with Eerie because he feels like they're both kind of outsiders in a way.
All right, Tara or Idalia, who do you have the strongest connection to?
Just like from the get-go, like just sort of throwing into it, I thought I was a little bit drawn to Ink just because he's sort of my opposite, that sort of like light and shadow kind of thing, and I think since Devoted, I feel like they have to sort of see the good in so much, and so even if it's their opposite, they're really like, that's going to be amazing. We're going to work well together. Oh my god! But I have different things for how I feel like I might be with the rest of them too. But we can save that if needed.
Ink will work for today, and we'll go on from there. Eerie, who did you bond with first the most?
Varya, but in a Spock and Bones kind of way. Like big and dumb and hitty and. But at the same
You're
time,
describing your character.
you have an axe.
It doesn't mean I'm dumb. I'm very smart about how I use my axe.
But then also when it comes to a fight, these are the two who are on the front lines always. So.
I was
Varya?
actually going to say just about the same. I think it would be the one character who would probably give her the least shit about what she is.
Okay.
Because, she... this school has the potential to be something really scary, and I would imagine probably the least judgy of the characters towards mine.
Good. The emotional heart of the group is the scary little kid from the horror film.
Werewolf.
Have we?
I'm
do
gonna
we
make
have
all you
a,
love me,
a
I swear.
good answer there?
You're gonna love me.
We have 12 votes. We do have a clear winner.
Okay.
If you want to call it right here.
Yeah, sure.
It is the Reborn Wing.
All right.
All right.
So we'll just go with the Reborn. So,
That way about it?
and we'll say that you gained this name not just because of its meaning to all of you, but because you're sort of a fated wing that has been out of circulation for a long time. So while there's about 13 wings in operation at a given time, give or take, and that amounts to 13 wings, between 13 wings and like 100 specific phoenixes are on the planet at a given time. Others are in the Crucible or simply haven't been resurrected. This wing, whatever it was named before, was a particularly successful and powerful one, and was highly relevant in the Civil War and some other things some other events the Phoenixes have been relevant to, and especially because of your talent. Ink. Your Talon was everyone's Talon has a history, and Talons sort of recur much more frequently than people think. But yours has been one that's been around for so long. A lot of the Phoenixes alive now remember the Phoenixes who carried it before. And so when you show up, and we'll say you were the first back of this wing, they realized that this wing was coming back into circulation, and there was like it was a good day. It was a lot of toasts were drunk over your this wing returning, and then as you slowly filled back in, and it is that strange thing where you feel like you're your last death, but people look at you like you're the Phoenix who has been in your wing for like 20 generations, and so sometimes they're like, it's you, and you're like, I don't know you, I was in a field and I died and now I'm here. So you've gone through the sort of weeks, if you will, of like initial training. You've worked together. You've sort of come to understand how things work here. But there's still a lot of questions I'm sure you have. But you're sort of on you have like designated times where you're like on patrol or where you're together, like sort of on call, if you will. And that is where we start today's adventure. It has been about a week since since the last of you was reborn as a Phoenix, and you've spent most of that time learning to work together as a wing and catching up on the current state of the Empire. The situation is desperate, though, and there's no more time for simple study. Now you're on duty in the Flame Chamber, waiting for news of the next emergency. The heart of the Grand Eerie, this is in the center of Pyre, is the original Imperial Flame, a fire from which all phoenixes are first reborn. The chamber that houses the flame is a massive cavern. Dozens of candles line the walls, and adepts scurry around studying the candles and the flame. Now, these candles are magical candles that they're throughout the world that you live in. If you want to go to the dice cam briefly, you can see there's a sort of map there. I don't know how well it'll turn up on that camera. Throughout that world, there are these Eerie's. These are sort of like Phoenix refueling stations, if you will, throughout the entire planet. And you can travel there from the Imperial Flame, which is sort of how you guys become like first responders to the Dread. So when there's a problem, they send you to the closest Eerie, and then you sort of go fight the problem, and then you go back. Unfortunately, the travel is actually only one way, so you sort of have to take the bus back. You get teleported there, and then you have to take, then you have to walk home. The Imperial Flame is the sort of central space from which all of the energy of the Phoenixes comes. And imagine it as this is like a 10-story, building-size fire. Like a column of fire that comes out of a sort of a ring on the ground and blasts up into this large cavern, almost like you're inside an active volcano, if the active volcano was constantly at the highest flame state. And it's hot, and it's magical fire, and anything that you put inside it were to melt away. And these candles that line the walls are magically connected to Aries all across the area, and there are 5 candles, and when you light a candle here, or when a candle is lit in the Eerie, its corresponding candle lights in the other location. So it becomes sort of almost like police code. So a 01011 is a X. And so and there are candle sets for each area all over. And imagine this like mission control for NASA. There are all these adepts running around, and the adepts sort of if headsets existed, they'd be wearing them, and they're comparing notes, and they've got scrolls, and they're checking things out, and there are all kinds of shit's going down throughout the entire empire. There's you see as you're walking around, sort of taking your turn, being on deck here, you see one set of candles goes all lit. So every single candle goes lit. And that's actually the best possible one. That's the job's done, Phoenixes are coming home. And there's another big round of applause, just when you came out of the fire the first time. And it's people passing around champagne, if such a thing existed. We did it! We stopped whatever that was. And then but meanwhile over there, one candle lights up, and that's something suspicious. And they're starting to write it down and figuring out what's going on. And there are mission planners, pooling over maps, trying to figure out where people might be coming from. Oh crap! Oh wait, well if this area is having problems and this area is having problems, maybe there's a source here, and there's some boss to be well, we need to investigate that. Send Alpha Wing, and. And then throughout all this is Ember. Ember is the marshal of the elemental school. Now, you don't have an elemental currently in your school. For the purposes of this game, of our game, the other 2 schools are represented in your wing. Normally, wings are only 4, but there will always be 4 players here in our game, so the other 2 will be here. But there's no elemental here now. But Ember is the sort of the biggest and baddest of the elementals, and is the flamekeeper for the Imperial Flame. And he's we'll say 15 feet tall at this point. This is his 7th incarnation. And he has a long white beard that is constantly catching fire, and then it burns down to a point, then it sizzles out, and then the beard kind of freshes back out, and then it burns up again. And little eddies of fire that form symbols, sort of dance off his beard and himself. And he's got basically burn marks all over his body, but the burns form detailed and intricate runes. And you've seen him before, and these are different than they were last time, and you don't even know how that works. These are scars. And he has sort of a booming voice, and he's sort of wandering around the fire and tending to it and commanding adepts. Normally, Phoenixes aren't dedicated to a specific flame. The Flamekeepers are mortals, mostly, who tie their life to a flame at an Eerie, and as a result, they're sort of at an Eerie, sorry, not Eerie. They tie their life to you. No, they tie their life to a flame and an Eerie, and it's sort of they mutually sustain each other until one of them and the other dies. This is the only one that has a phoenix tied to it, and so he's wandering around, and suddenly, sorry, this is Cinder, not Ember. Cinder is the elemental marshal, Suddenly, a set of unlit candles flares into life. An adept scurries over to study the message, but the elemental marshal, Cinder, is already in motion. He barks commands at adepts who gather around the massive central flame. Then he turns to you. Ah, the reborn. Good. I'm glad it's you. The Blackstone Eerie in southern Scavia has just called in 2 candles. Eerie compromised. There has been no further contact, which means it's a dire situation. We'll send you through as soon as the flames are aligned. There is every chance you'll be stepping into an active combat. Your job is to identify the threat and learn as much about it as you can. Find and protect the Flame Keeper. Survive if possible. And so he goes off and he goes off and basically starts working on the flames to try and send you back. He informs you that because they're going to make a very quick connection, he's going to have to send you one at a time. So why don't you put in order here on this white sheet who's going to go through first? So first would be here, and then further on. Which one of you is going to go through first?
Well, I think we need to decide if we want to go in guns blazing.
It seems like the fighters should go in first.
Or if
just
we
to
want
be
to have
safe.
somebody go in that can be a little sneakier and have a look around.
I'd
and
probably
assess the
advocate for
situation.
that, simply as other people come through, we know what we're dealing with. Nothing against Varya. You know, obviously you didn't get to where you were in life without having some sort of acumen for observation. But perhaps I would be better suited to go through first this time.
I think that's a fine idea.
We don't know what's going on the other side. I mean, I'm happy to go in and smash things, obviously. But
Well, I'm sure the time will come today yet where you can smash.
All right, so Ink goes first. Who's going in after?
should I follow in to be able to jump on the attack if I need to? If it does end up being a dire situation?
I feel like that makes sense. You'll let us know what's going on. Either of you can really battle it out if you have to. And then I can protect anyone who's left over once we know. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Oh.
All right, who's next? All right.
All right.
Okay.
And I can guard anyone who needs guarding and
Okay.
help out once we know what they're dealing with.
So you're getting set, getting ready to go. There are attendants running up to you, like offering you like water and getting you prepped. You have time now to ask questions, if you will. There are like junior flame keepers, and even Cinder himself will answer any questions you might have about the situation or the location if you have anything specific you want to learn.
Has this particular area been compromised before, or was there any reason to believe that it might be now?
They don't have a specific answer to that. They will tell you that Blackstone, which is the area, is a place of moors and barrens, and it doesn't have a lot of strategic importance. It's not close to a major city. There are a number of small villages nearby, and they've had some ongoing problems with the Bones, which are sort of a skeletal raiders that strike in the night, but there have only been isolated incidents and not an ongoing campaign. Still, people are afraid and concerned about the future there, but there hasn't been a specific threat. None of you are Scavian initially, none of your first lives. If you want, anyone can make, if you want to learn more about that.
I do.
Do you have lore, I'm assuming?
I do.
You can make a lore spread. You can give me the
Can we
map
pull
back.
our
if you
5
want.
cards for now, just to know what we're...
Yeah,
we've
go ahead and
got?
draw 5. So we're getting
6
into
for me,
it.
though.
6 for you, yes, because you are the shrouded, so you have 1 extra.
Okay, so by using my Master of Intrigue skill specialty, I get 5 on top of whatever my spread is. So I'm putting down 1 intellect, which doesn't really, the trait doesn't apply in this situation, but because of my talent, Hidden Secrets, I can use any card as if it were an intellect card. So I'm going to put these 2 down, and those are now intellect cards.
Okay.
So there's 9 total, plus 5 is 14, and let's round it off at 15.
So I'll take that as the trait. Otherwise, I'm going to keep it at a 3-card spread, but you can put that on as luck.
Sure, let's do that.
So as luck would have it, also you're using your lore specialty, correct?
Correct.
From Master of Intrigue.
Yeah.
So as luck would have it, you've actually studied a little bit of the area of Scavia, both before and after your death. And what is your total?
Well, if we're using this as a 4, so there's 4, 8, 12, 13, 18.
Are you going to spend the spark to use it as a 4, or are you going to just go with it as a 1?
Yes, I am going to use
Okay.
spark.
All right. So, so 18. You remember a specific story about the region long ago. The Scavy war leader bargained with a fallen prince known as the Harvester of Fear. The Harvester was supposed to wipe out a rival clan. He pulled their fears from their minds and unleashed them into the world. These terrors killed the clan, then went on to kill the foolish warrior who'd made the bargain in the first place, along with his people. These fears lingered, preying on anyone who ventured into the moors. Thus the region was shunned until the phoenixes of the Empire defeated the Harvester and cleansed the area.
But I heard accounts of this in both storybooks and historical records. I assumed it was just a legend.
Well, you also know, I'll give you this, that you know that the Scavians, are the people of Scavia, believe in these creatures called the Fallen, which are sort of like fey creatures. They're all traditionally masked creatures. They all have like a sort of like a carnival masks or whatever. And they're supernatural creatures that basically are like tricksters and bargainers. They're always sort of based around some sort of like bargain mechanic. And so many of the current Skaven tribes believe that like their prosperity or whatever's going on with them is based on deals that their ancestors made with the Fallen a long time ago. So this would make sense in terms of like their mythology.
Okay. So we should definitely exercise caution because I'm not sure what we're dealing with. And these are discards now?
Yeah, and you can draw up to 5.
Cool. Do you want to take a second and explain
6.
how sparks work?
Yeah, so all these characters have a combination of, you want to put one each in front of the camera there, Mike? Have a combination of sparks and health levels. And sparks represent the sort of like Phoenix's energy, and health levels represent like the physicality of their body. 1 health level is already like twice what it would take to kill a human being. Phoenixes don't actually really heal so much. So they're sort of animated, like your body is animated by the sparks inside you. And so you can take an incredible amount of damage and still hold your body together. So you all have 5 health levels, and those aren't going to go up very fast, but they represent an extreme difficulty in being damaged at all. And then your sparks are basically your Phoenix energy, and you use them to power abilities, and you can use them to affect checks, but if you run out, you die. In fact, you run out of either, you die, but if you run out of health and you still have sparks left, you kind of mill around as an attendant spirit until you burn up the rest of your sparks. If you run out of sparks, though, you die instantly, and then you resurrect the next morning, and you're a tier 2 Phoenix, and so on and so forth.
And then also, once a health level is exhausted, that happens.
Yep.
And in some cases, for some of the classes, being damaged is not necessarily a bad thing.
Right. The bitters, everyone has a special dynamic. So Mike has 1 more card than everybody else in his hand, so you drew up to 6, right?
Correct.
And also has a bunch of stuff that allows him to sort of like be hidden. Tara has the ability to take wounds onto herself and give them to enemies, and also to sort of manipulate the amount of sparks that her compatriots have. She sort of ties them together. She's like clerical. Chan can use 2s to gain more cards, and also it like works very fast. Percussive strikes is an ability you have that allows you to commit sparks every time you're hit, and then take them back off as 2 sparks or as 2 damage, I believe is how it works. And then you are basically, the more they beat you up, the better you are. Okay, so does anyone else want to ask any more questions before they start sending you through? You've learned about Scavia and the Fallen Folk, and you've learned about the specific story of the Harvester of Fear, but you haven't learned anything else.
I mean, what do
So we need to find out what's going on.
Yeah,
we
so-
should at least have a sense of the area and how it's set up, if it's similar to this, so we also know what we're expecting terrain-wise.
Well, you're going to go into a flame chamber, which is on the other side of these flame chambers. They're all, it's like basically going to be like a smaller version of this fire, and then like a couple of weapons racks, and like some basic equipment for adventuring, because they're sort of used to Phoenixes like arriving, grabbing a pack, and heading out into the wilderness. This is basically like the bus terminal for Phoenixes that you're heading into. It's probably a small stronghold. You can ask about whether this one has any specific qualities, but you would know that generally.
And this area is the one that's actually currently under attack that we're going to come right into.
Yeah, the Eerie itself is currently under attack, which is the candle code that was sent across. So
right away we're in it.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Okay.
Also, just kind of one special effect, whenever anything of note comes up, it kind of looks like ink's idly tracing his stylus on the air, just as if he's writing it down.
Any other questions or information you want to know before you go? Now remember, your mission is to find out what's going on, protect the Flamekeeper, survive if possible, and, clear the place out if you can, I suppose. That's more of a bonus.
All right. So my I don't know if I should take the torch. I just had a.
Oh, there's no torch yet because we're not in
impulse.
combat.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Act on your impulse.
Okay. Well, my impulse says I'm there, and I know I want to protect the Flamekeeper so that you guys can deal with the threat. So.
So you haven't gone through the fire yet. So this is something you want to hold till you arrive.
Yes, I do.
All right, good. Any other questions?
Good.
Is there any other strategic knowledge that can be gained about the Eerie, or like if it were under attack, are there places to, say you show up and then there's a dozen critters trying to murder you. Is there any strategic information available?
Well, chances are the Imperial Flame would be a good place for you to sort of work around because it doesn't harm you per se. It does. I mean, you burn up in it when you travel, but like it's a much less of a threat to you than it is to other things. There's also there'll be weapons there. There may be the Legion of Soldiers may still be there. They could help you. They don't know the specific layout of this place. You discover that this Eerie was actually built into an existing structure. So as opposed to being constructed by the Empire itself, this was an area that was like there was something else here, and they built it into it. So it's going to have whatever the layout was of that.
Shall we then?
Just remember, first life is your own. The rest belong to the Empire.
Do you want to go through hidden, or do you want to?
I don't have any way to. The only way I have to become hidden right now is Shadow Dancer, which says once during your turn you may use an environmental element to become hidden instead of drawing another card. So I would like to do that as soon as I cross through.
Okay. All right. So let's move these over here because we're going to reveal the environmental element of the room that you're going into anyway. Because.
Sorry, Varya.
All right, and you can go ahead and take the torch.
Thank you.
All right, so you are going into the flame chamber. And the flame chamber has the following elements. It has the Imperial Flame, a weapons rack, a rally banner, a cringing adept, which I'll explain in a second, signaling candles, and a stuffed bear. That's like a full-size stuffed bear, by the way, not like a toy. That's like a.
That's immediately what I thought, actually.
Yeah,
So
no,
thank you for
and
clarifying.
the game felt necessary to explain
like a
that.
teddy bear?
So here's what you see upon heading through. Okay, so this is the first time you've done a sort of transport by way of the fire.
Right.
You step in, and it's basically like you're burning, like they're basically incinerating you, like, and it doesn't hurt necessarily, but it's very clear that you're like disincorporating, like your flesh lights on fire and it burns off in little pieces and flakes, and it burns you down to a skeleton, and then the skeleton sort of like crumbles into ash. It's kind of like that scene where Dr. Manhattan is created, where you like slowly fade out.
Yeah.
Also,
I look just like Billy Crudup. No, not really.
and then in the Imperial fire at the area you're traveling to, the like sort of ash in the ground of that fire like sort of spins up and sort of coalesces sort of transporter style into you. Okay. Details come together. You've stepped out of the bonfire, a smaller version of the Imperial Flame on pyre. Weapons hang from one wall, ready to meet with the needs of any reborn phoenixes. There are a few stuffed beasts against the opposite wall, trophies of past hunts. In the center of the room, a hideous figure chokes a man in adept's robes. The enemy is armored in the manner of a knight, but he clearly isn't human. His proportions are all wrong. His forearms are too long, and his spine is stretched and curved. His armor is forged from blackened steel and stamped with gleaming runes. Despite the bulk of the armor, this Dread Knight's movement is fluid and assured. So, this is a Dread Knight, which looks like, you want to put that in front of them there? That's a Dread Knight, which looks like that. Maybe down more towards the line. and I'll take that.
Okay.
So here's your Dread Knight, and your Dread Knight has these health levels here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 health levels 3.
Ooh.
And basically, and then, sorry, I'm also going to put out an innocent card because there is one adept. These are the guys who sort of run around and address things, and who work here. And he is being held up right now by the Dread Knight, and he's like screaming in absolute terror, and the Dread Knight is sort of like waving him around the space. And so you have the torch.
Okay.
Let's see here. The room itself is simple and open. The walls are made of a black stone. There are no windows. There's an open archway in the south wall directly across from the Imperial Flame, and it's the only exit. The altar with the signaling candles is in the southeast corner, and it looks like the adept may have been the person who ran in and made the candle code sign, and then this thing chased him into the room and basically caught him here. And you have a chance to take an action before anything goes on.
Okay, so as soon as he apparates on the other side and emerges from the flame and sees the Dread Knight choking the adept, he quickly surveys the room, and observing a largish stuffed creature, he kind of sweeps his cloak around himself and sort of just melds with the shadows and steps behind the creature.
Okay, so go ahead and check off the stuffed bear, and you don't draw a card because you're going to go.
I'm hidden.
You're hidden, so I'll give you a hidden condition.
Okay.
There you go. And so we can deal with it, the way that hidden works is you can't be targeted by an attack, and you get a +2 bonus on any attack spread you make against an unwary target. Anything that draws attention to you will remove this condition.
Okay.
So you're hidden, so you have a chance to take, basically you're going to take your action, and each one of you as you pass the torch will come through the flame on your turn and be able to act.
Okay.
So what do you want to do before you do?
I can't think of anything right now.
Well, it looks like he's definitely not being nice to this adept. So
Sure.
it might be advantageous for you to try and get him free, or if you want to try and take a skill spread to set something up for one of your other phoenixes as they come through. Remember, because you're going to draw back at the end of your turn, it never hurts you to take actions on your turn. It's defending and doing things off your turn that really start burning things down.
Okay, now would it be possible for me to kind of sneak out, attack him, and then sneak back in?
There are ways for you to. I think there are ways in your abilities for you to go hidden. I think it's on your combat style.
Okay, after you successfully defend against an attack, you may become hidden. So I'm already hidden, and not only do I get the +2 against him as attack, but I also get to add an additional card.
Right. So you'll do quite well on this attack, but you won't necessarily be able to get hidden until he counterattacks you once, because you're putting yourself out there in place of the adept.
Okay.
The other option is to try and get the adept out of his hands without revealing yourself, if you can think of a way to do that.
Actually, now that I'm behind this bear, I kind of want to knock it over.
Okay.
And Do
you want to push it onto him?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So go ahead and make an attack spread with your +2 and with your additional card.
Okay.
So your combat style determines what kind of...
well, it's intellect by default, and that gives me 2 cards that I can use. So the only 2 intellect cards that I have, well, no, I have other intellect cards, but these are the highest value ones I have. So we add 2 to that because I'm hidden.
Right.
And then I actually get to use an additional card. Oh, and it looks like I had another one there.
Cool.
So that's, what is that? That's 11 total. Yeah, so that's what I got.
So
and draw back up to 6.
Well, wait till you're till the end of your turn officially. All right, so you have an attack.
Can you move those towards the camera?
Yes.
So you have an attack of 11. All right.
Yeah.
And so you're pushing the bear onto him.
Yeah.
So that's 11 minus its defense of 4. So that's 7. And it has health levels 3. So 7 divided by 3, you only take off 2 health levels because you can't complete another one. So you take 2 health levels off, and basically you knock the bear onto it, and the bear collides with it, and it's forced to drop the adept. It basically moves his attention to the bear.
Cool.
And then why don't you, with what you have left, can you make me a grace spread to see if you can remain hidden?
Yes.
All right.
What-
So you can take those 3 cards into your discard.
Okay.
And just make a grace spread of as high as you can get. Again, remember this is your turn, so you'll draw back after. So you have a grace of 8. And do you want to use any any of your skill specialties in that?
Would that be spycraft?
How so?
No, I think that's too much.
Okay, so 8. I'll say that you do remain hidden. So it
Because
doesn't.
there's flickering of the torches on the walls, and he's just had a stuffed bear thrown atop him, and who knows what's going on in this guy's head? What kind of day he's had, really?
Okay.
And that's coffee.
So he's
All right.
disoriented. Yeah.
Okay.
So discard these, draw back up to 6.
Yep, and draw back up to 6.
Awesome.
And all right, so the Dread Knight, however, is going to
if I may.
is going to make so the Dread Knight throws off.
Can't, because Eerie's coming through next.
Yeah.
So the Dread Knight throws off the bear, and then he makes a Dread Gaze attack, which is actually an everyone attack. It's a targeted attack, which means he can't do it. So he can't see you.
Okay.
But you'll know that, not seeing his attacker, you can see him, look at the adept, consider him as a target, and then choose not to. All right. Anyway, next in is Eerie. So Eerie, take the torch. So you incinerate and then decinerate, and you're in the room. These are the items in the room. And you can see the Dread Knight is sort of pulling himself up after the bear. You can't see your compatriot, but you feel like you would know if he died, sort of wingmate sense, like twins.
My roommate sense is tingling.
Yep.
You're the Danny DeVito twin in this.
Accurate.
Of course, of course.
Eerie is going to come out. He is going to dart for the banner, yank it off, run down and wrap it as many times around the Dread Knight's ankles as he can and yank him off his feet.
All right, there's actually specific rules for this. All right, let's see here. So it's going to be a grace spread, actually, not an attack spread. So, you can. So, do you have any skill specialties you want to add to this?
Would that be acrobatics?
I'll take acrobatics. So that's going to be +5. So, what do you want to add to that? So you're starting at 5, and I'd say it's a spread of 3.
Okay. Oh, no, that's a 2. Oh, yeah. Okay.
But if you use a 2, you'll draw.
Right.
Right?
Let's go.
Okay, so are you using that
The strength
as...
is being used as grace.
okay, but are you using misspent youth specifically? Are you going to use that for its abilities, or just use it as a 1?
When you use this card in a spread, draw 2 cards, place one of those cards back on top of your deck. Yes, I'm also.
But so how is your misspent youth being relevant here?
As a small child, this is not the first time he's had this shit kicked out of him by a larger person. So he knows that if you can take them off their feet, then they're vulnerable.
Okay, I'll let you have that. So first off, so do as the card suggests. So draw 2 and put 1 back on top of the deck, and then. You also, that doesn't count towards the spread because you used it as a trait, so you can add 1 more to that if you want.
Blur of motion.
Okay. I can see that applies all by itself, but you can go ahead and tell me why.
When you use this card in a spread, draw 1 card. He obviously the adept is in some serious trouble, so he's trying to get him away from it as soon as possible.
All right, so go ahead and draw, and again, that doesn't count towards your total because it's a used trait. So if you have any more grace to throw on that, you go ahead.
Thanks, son.
All right, what's your total?
Spread.
5 plus what's showing?
10, 15. Draw 1.
15 total?
Yeah, 15 total.
Okay. You, despite your massive effort, the banner ends up being too unwieldy, and you're not able to wrap it around him. You do, however, disorient him, but it doesn't end up having any game effect, so you can discard that.
And you cross off the banner too
Yep.
on there, right?
And draw a card because you use the banner.
Nice.
And go ahead and cross off the rally banner as a. Now you can still make more spreads before you pass the torch if you want to. And you drew from the 2 you used, correct? So.
So he is disoriented.
He's disoriented, but it's not. It doesn't have a cosmetic effect. But if you can, but if you want to make an ability that would make use of his disorientation, I'll give it to you. I'll give you a benefit.
Could I make an attack? Or
Yeah, go ahead. You can make whatever kind of spread you want.
Yeah, then I'm gonna what do you call that? What do you call that when you try and check somebody by flipping their knees?
Oh, I want to say rope-a-dope, but I don't think that's right.
No, it's like a football thing.
You're gonna
A leg tackle.
or slide tackle him. Is that yeah?
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
That.
You're gonna rope-a-tackle him?
I'm going to tickle him as one.
All right. So your combat style is flowing force, correct? So what you guys should remember to declare your combat style at the beginning of your action. So you can make a spread of 2 cards. And I'll add 2 to this because you disoriented him with the. So 2 strength cards. So that's a total of 8, 9, 10. All right. He has a defense of 4, so he reduces that to 6. You do 6 damage to him, which is 2 health levels. Boom, boom. And no draw because you didn't use an environmental object or a 2. Do you want to make any more spreads? Do you have enough cards to do anything like that, or do you want to just draw up to 5?
I'll just drop to 5.
All right, so discard those 2 and pass the torch to Varya, who's coming through the fire next.
All right.
You most recently were resurrected by fire, so this is the slightly less jarring for you as you
God,
are
fire all the
incinerated
time.
and then come back. You being observant note that her skeleton is slightly more bestial as it forms first and then gets fleshed over. She's got slightly more claw. She's got very obvious fangs as her teeth.
Kind of hunched over.
Yeah.
perhaps? Yeah. Okay.
Nice.
Chicken leg is the ability, is the thing? Is what we're being told? Your chicken leg? Okay, so that was a chicken leg you did to him, says the chat. Thank you, chat.
That's so useful.
The more you know.
Yeah. All right. So you come in. You can see that the Dread Knight is like sort of fallen down to his knees. Again, just cosmetic, no actual effect.
Yeah.
But he's fallen down to his knees. You can see like the blur that is Eerie sort of speeding off. You can't see ink at all. And the like fallen near the Dread Knight, like sort of is the cringing adept who is like clearly immobilized with fear. What do you want to do?
Well, I want to get the Dread Knight away from the Adept just in case. I'm actually wondering if I could come in.
Oh, sorry, wait.
What?
I'm going to interrupt you one more time. The
right.
the Dread Knight is going to, I got to give him a counterattack against you, Chan. This is an attack of 8. All or nothing. So if you can't defend 8, then don't. And this is a grace defense, 2 cards because of your combat style.
Okay.
Unless you want to throw a trait.
Small and quick.
Yep.
Just 5 and a defensive spread.
All right, so you can add 1 more card then, because that doesn't count towards the card limit. So that's 5, 9. Yep, 10, 11. So great. So draw 1 from that too, and you are fine. So go ahead, Mac. Sorry.
That's okay. I want to know if where the weapon rack is, if it's possible, if I can come in.
Hold on a sec.
That's cool. I'm just gonna chill like
Yeah, sorry, Mac. Sorry.
When I make a defensive spread against a melee attack, I can counterattack. With
All
the same
right.
Value as
It's not a melee attack. It was his dread gaze. So you're fine.
He's looking at me.
Yeah, he's just looking at you. He looked. It didn't work. All right. Go ahead.
Are we sure?
Yeah.
I could send you chips for
No,
a
it's
while.
fine. No, sponsored by Pringles. All right, go ahead, Mac.
I want to know if I can come running in. I've seen the situation. He's already on his knees. If I can grab him around the waist and bring him up and slam him down on the weapon rack.
You sure can. Go ahead and knock it off.
Like I want to impale the shit out of his body.
Cross it off and draw a card from that, and then give me. Are you going to rage when you turn on your talent?
Yeah, so I will. My combat style is endless rage, so I will be enraged at the beginning of my.
So that adds. I believe that gives you 1. You get 1 more card in your attack spreads and 1 less in your defense spreads.
Yeah.
Here, take a rage token.
Yes. for all the times. So just do a general.
It's whatever your attack. I think your attack is both, right? Your combat style is your attack spreads are both strength and grace.
Yes, they are.
So it's one more than your normal attack spread.
Okay. So I get to put down 3.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go ahead and put down a 3 strength and a 2. And I also have this Ruthless card. So when I play in a spread, I draw a card and it has a value of 5 when you use an attack spread.
All right, so how are you, I mean, I think it's quite obvious, but how are you being ruthless? Tell us.
Because I'm going to ruthlessly skewer this guy on a weapon rack.
Okie dokie.
I don't even know what his motivations are. I just saw Dread Knight. I'm going to murder the shit out of him.
Sold. You can now add another card to that spread if you want to. You've definitely beat his defense, so you don't need to.
I think that at this point he's pretty toasted.
All right. So you slam him down. That's his last health level, and you basically pick up. And you bring it down onto the weapons rack, and you can see you sort of have a wild abandon, but thankfully you're a little lucky here because a pike slides through his body and passes your neck, and a sword sticking out of him, and you can see where the morning star gets stuck in the back of its head, and you collapse it down, and there's sort of a moment of we did it, and then the Dread Knight sort of reaches its hand out at the Adept. And the Adept, you can see that the Adept is having some sort of fit, and it looks like it's sort of some sort of mental, it's like having a nightmare. And the Adept goes and then a horrible mist comes pouring out of the Adept's mouth and flies back over to the Dread Knight, and the Dread Knight returns to full health.
What?
I
I thought it was gonna come into a nice clean situation.
Sorry, no.
You can go help the
This is an attack. This is a defense, by the way. Everyone in the room, so everyone but you, needs to make a defense against an attack 6. This is all or nothing. So if you can't defend against 6, don't bother.
Okay.
Or if you don't want to.
What does hidden add to my?
Hidden's going to add 2 to that.
I can't do it.
You can't do it, so just don't bother.
Yep.
So go
I
ahead
could
and take.
probably do it, but honestly, at this point, it's better for me to get a little fucked up.
All right, take a wound, both of you.
Okay.
Chant, can you defend against this? It's also not a melee attack, I'm afraid.
You hear a cry coming from the shadows behind the taxidermied animals.
Damn it! Ow!
Ink.
It's what I do.
Is this a real bed?
No.
Is this a one? Oh, just one wound?
It's just going to be 1 wound.
Yeah, I'll take it.
All right, take a wound. All right, so all 3 of you are wounded. Basically, the whatever this energy is that the Adept that he pulls out of the Adept sort of spills out into the room as well, and as it whatever it does to restore the Dread Knight to health, it also bursts out from that, and so you're hit with these sort of waves of what is essentially necrotic energy, and neither of you can defend against it, and you just go what, and let it wash over you. And why don't you tell us what happens the first time you have a wound?
So.
And draw because you took a wound.
Yeah. So I cards. So she is actually wearing a wolf pelt on her. That's part of her uniform. So it actually starts to meld into her skin, and she actually starts to transform a little more. Eyes are a little more yellow. Fangs are a little more pronounced. So she actually starts to, instead of just mentally channeling this beast mode, literally goes into beast mode.
The more damage you get, the more animalistic you get.
Yes.
Fun stuff. And your turn's not over, so you can make a spread here if you want to. So it's resurrected basically under you, you're standing on top of it. So you can do whatever you have the spreads to do.
You're showing up just in time.
No. Now that people got wounds, I can do a thing. All right.
Let's see. Kind of thing. I can do an attack spread.
Okay.
Using, let's see, and I'm in rage, so I can actually put in 3 cards. But I can only, nope, I can use strength and grace, so. I'm going to go ahead and put in kind of everything I have into an attack spread.
Okay.
Basically what I'm going to do is, he's already on the weapon rack, kind of pick him up again and slam him down.
Okay. All right.
Stay dead.
So that's a spread of 8. His defense is 4. So that becomes 4. 4 divided by 3, which is his health levels, is 1. So that's 1 health level because incomplete health levels don't go over.
Unless
it's brutal damage,
Which we
but
don't
you're not
have.
doing brutal damage here.
Yeah.
So that's 1 level. Do you have any more spreads in you, or are you out?
Let's see, I think I might be all spread it out. Yep.
All right, go ahead and draw back up to 5 and pass the torch to Idalia, who is coming in next. So, Idalia, you're coming in through the Imperial flame. You know, you just like, I'm on fire. Oh no, I'm cool. I'm back. And there's like really awkward anime moment where like you've come all the way to being just naked and then your clothes form on you. You know, like when you're spinning around in light or whatever. Which is always that thing where you're like, that was creepy, animator. This is for kids. So you're back. Your diadem like sort of forms last, like. And you see, and you step out of the fire. Again, ink is nowhere to be seen. You're seeing like the blur of Eerie like buzzing around, and you're just coming down there as as Varya's like, you motherfucker! And, like, go right there. And you don't necessarily. I mean, you. I'll say that you sort of all have like a light psychic connection, so you kind of know what they know about like what happened with the adept, but you didn't actually see it. You just see the adept like quaking on the ground, and the Dread Knight is sort of like struggling with her. So what do you want to do?
Okay, everyone's kind of a hot mess right now. So I think I see that the adept is still further away from everything than everyone else is. I know that people definitely took some wounds. So being a devoted, I can take that on me and get that to the Dread Knight. So I think I'm going to use Passing Pain.
So how is that going to work?
So it says, on a successful attack, you may transfer a number of wounds equal to half your rank, round up, to your target at a cost of 1 spark per wound, and each one inflicts 3 brutal damage.
Now you need to take wounds on yourself first. So you're going to need to use shared strength, I think it is, to take the wounds from one of your compatriots.
Right, okay.
So, and that's going to cost you sparks, I believe.
Let me see.
Because you aren't currently hurt, so you have no wounds to transfer.
Okay. So I go in. Let me see. I guess it doesn't matter who's the most wounded because I can only take.
You can only take from one of them.
Leave me be because I need it.
And you can't see Michael, so you're going to have to take Chance.
Okay. So I go to Eerie.
So it's 1 spark per wound?
Yeah. No, any number it says.
Okay, so give me 1 spark and take, and you're healed back up by 1.
Okay.
And so you are now wounded by 1. So that's the first part of your action.
All right.
And now you can Passing Pain the Dread Knight.
Okay, I don't need to make a spread for that.
You don't need to make a spread for that talent. That happens on its own.
Cool. Okay.
So you have an attack that you can have 2 cards in your attack, and they're intellect cards. So 2. I believe they're blue intellect cards.
Ooh, I've only got 1.
Well,
okay.
I happen to have a trait that I would like to play in this case. It is seen this before. It's an intellect card, and with this I can add 3 to Wingmate's spread.
Nice.
Okay. Now, how is this? How is your having seen this before relevant here? This is going to be a harder sell than some.
Okay. She pops out of the fire and she sees what's going on, and she sees the Dread Knight. She takes Eerie's wound. I'm like, you have to understand, when fighting Dread Knights, you have to hit them just here to do maximum damage.
All right, I'll take it. So that's going to add 3 to this spread.
And discard?
Okay.
Yeah, that's discarded, yeah.
Okay.
So it's that card plus 3, and I believe...
I think I'm going to try to use healing for my skill specialty.
Can't use that on an attack spread.
Only in skills, right? Okay.
Now you can, I believe, as part of your being devoted, can you use... nope, you can make a card grace, not intellect, so...
Right, it's the other way around.
So go ahead and put down what you got.
All right, so this is all I've got for...
What's that?
Do I need to draw back up to 6?
No,
Okay.
because it's
That's
not
what
your
I thought.
turn.
That's what I thought.
So, and so I'm trying to make an attack. So what I do is I create a blast of radiation to hopefully disintegrate some part of the knight.
Okay.
And if possible, transfer that wound to him.
Well, it definitely works because you do 4 plus 3 from him, so that's the 4 gets through his defense, 3 takes off 1 wound, and then you do how much damage from your Passing Pain?
3 brutal damage.
Okay, and do you need to spend a spark on that, or does it happen on its own?
Oh god, yes, I think so. Wait.
1 spark per wound each. Let me look and see here.
Wait.
Yeah.
Equal to half your rank to your target. Oh wait, no, that's when I take them on. On a successful attack, you may transfer any number of wounds equal to half your rank to your target at a cost of 1 per wound. All
So
right.
burn a spark and you'll hit him for another 1.
All
which
right.
is 3 brutal damage, but still 3 is 1 token, so it's just
Right.
going to take 1. So
Okay.
you did 2 to him, which is not bad.
Cool.
Discard that 4.
Right.
And then, do you want to do anything else?
Let's see. So I want to now go to the adept, and I want to create kind of a force field that sort of protects us while everybody else kind of deals with their business.
Okay. What I'll do there is I need you to make a grace spread. This is sort of a secondary effect. So I'm going to allow you to sort of like, you're basically like getting in the way and defending this guy and trying to defend the both of you. But this is going to have a secondary effect of a grace spread to try and calm the adept down.
Okay.
So you can use up to 3 grace cards. And you can use one card that isn't grace as grace as per your natural
All
ability.
right. And one of mine is this savior.
Okay.
So I'm being his savior.
Okay, so
And that means I get that doesn't count towards my spread.
it doesn't? And what is its
Okay.
special ability?
Right. When you use this card in a spread, draw 1. Discard savior at any time to add 5 to the value of a wingmate
Yeah,
spread.
but so you'll still draw 1, so
Okay.
you'll draw 1 more, and that doesn't count. So do you have another grace card you can add to that?
I do now.
Okay, so that is a total of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You feel like you've calmed the adept a little bit, but not enough. So like he's still basically like catatonic from it, but like you can, you get that sort of recognition in his eyes where like you're pulling him back from like this basically like waking nightmare that he's been placed in.
Okay.
So discard that, and then you don't have any more. You're not going to do much with one card theoretically.
No, and this is sort of helps a wingmate really. So.
I can let you have activated the cringing adept there, so you can draw a card
Yeah.
from that if you want to, and then. But if you can't make a spread, you're still just going to draw back up to 5.
Yeah, I wouldn't really.
Okay, so go ahead and draw
Another
to
trait.
5.
Okay.
And then who are you going to pass the torch to, or who wants it? Oh, sorry. The Dread Knight's going to attack here.
Oh, right.
Oh.
That guy.
Oh yeah.
It's going to
wait, sorry.
attack Varya with its slashing blade. This is an attack of 9.
9. I think I'd rather hold on to cards than make a defense.
I should warn you that this damage looks like this is not. This is very vicious damage. It's brutal damage.
So I do want to try and mitigate.
I'd mitigate it by as
possible.
much as you can.
Okay.
And you can only defend by 1 though, because you're enraged.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that I can only do that. Although, I have a question. So I have a grace card that's superhuman reflexes, and it's a lower card. It does allow me to draw another card. Can I use this because
You can use
he's
that-
going to swing at me? Am I able to dodge some of that damage
Yeah,
and take
and you
less?
can use that and another card because it's a trait, so it doesn't counter your card cap.
Okay,
So
so I'm gonna
you
put that down. and then
Dodge out of the way with your wolf-like strength.
So I can draw another card.
And you can put another grace into this defense.
So I'm going to go ahead and put in the other
So that's
highest grace
4.
I have. Yeah, that's the highest I have. I can't put any more in that spread.
Okay, so it has an attack value of 9, which is 5 at times 1, but it is capped at 4, so it's going to do 4 brutal damage to you. I think it might have just we'll divide that by 2 actually. Well, for the purpose of this, just take 2 more wound levels.
Okay.
I believe that might have actually just one-shotted you, but for the purposes of today's game, we'll cut it down to that.
Okay.
So yeah,
brutal damage is, well,
and
brutal.
draw 2 from those 2 hits.
Okay.
Oh, good question. Since I transferred this wound, does it go back to healthy from?
Yep, you're
okay,
fine.
Right.
Okay, so who has the torch?
Oh, right. We were supposed to. That was supposed to be there.
Okay,
Question
I
about the
guess-
signaling
I guess
candles.
I'm gonna do
Are they
that.
magical candles or are they just candles?
they're magical
Like,
candles.
does the flame stay lit?
There's
on
currently
the
two
exposures?
of the 5 are lit right now.
Like a one of those gimmicked birthday candles.
Yeah.
Like put it out. Will they
No,
come back on?
you have to use like a spell. You can make a, if you want to like light or unlight the candles, you can make a skill spread to try and turn them on and off. But yeah, they just like
They
currently
stay
they're
lit.
going to stay lit as is.
Great.
All right. Well, since this has been passed to me, I'm obviously going to continue to attack him and try and take him out again.
Do it to
using
it.
the same weapon rack because I'm right there, and also
Okay.
I'm going to use crude but effective.
Okay,
And it has a value of 5 when it's used in an attack spread.
I'd
Okay.
say that's
So I'm
so
gonna,
you can put 3 more cards then on top of that. Do you have one more?
oh, 3
Because
more.
the trait will
yes.
count towards your spread.
Yes, I'm going to just throw
so
all of the
16
numbers.
total.
16. All right. Well, -4 is 12, and 12 divided by 3 is more than 6. So you take its 2 last levels, and again, you're just like.
Yeah, and I
just
actually
went
had
nuts.
+3 for all my wounds. As
Oh, that's
well.
true. All right, but unfortunately, again,
Yeah.
as you beat it down, the adept, like shaking in your arms, the snaking coil of smoke
No.
comes out of its mouth and flies over
No.
to the Dread Knight and bring it back. Everyone has to make a defensive 6. It's an all or nothing defensive 6. And this is for 1 wound. I should
I
go
can't
ahead.
do it.
I can't actually either.
You can't make 6 out of all your cards. You don't. How
Any
many cards do you
cards?
have?
Damn it.
Well, I've got 5, but I don't have 6 grace.
In 2 cards or whatever.
Well, it would be 3 cards, but I've only got 2 grace cards plus 2 hidden, so that's 5.
Yeah. All right. So take your wound.
Already did.
Okay.
Alright, so
Do you take a wound as well?
Yep.
You see a little rustle in the shadows. Ring's face appears for a second, and then kind of ducks back in.
All right. You want to draw? You can draw a card from this wound that you've taken.
Okay.
And I'm
And
taking it just because I can transfer it.
Now,
to
is
yeah,
Varya
so-
getting more and more bestial, or is it just kind of a one-time thing?
It's more and more.
Okay.
So I mean, at this point, she's pretty fucked up.
her legs just snap back the other direction. All right.
Lupine.
Do you have more spread to do here before we pass the torch?
Unfortunately, not.
Oh,
All right.
So
I'm a dummy.
Who wants it?
It's all right.
Will you get him out of here?
I was thinking something similar. Okay.
I'm going to zip around, grab the 2 candles, the 2 lit candles off the wall, run up, and jab them into his eye holes.
Okay. Draw a card from using draw a card and cross off signaling candles as an environmental element, and go ahead and make me an attack spread. This is of 2 cards, I believe. And if you succeed, I'll pass on the flaming condition to the Dread Knight, or the on fire condition to the Dread Knight.
I'm getting close to eating it here.
Okay, and then
When I use terrifying, when I use that card in a successful attack spread, you may burn 1 spark to stun the target.
okay, you're gonna burn a spark. All right, that'll stun him, and I'm assuming you're terrifying because you're jabbing things into his eyes.
Yeah.
Also, hashtag grudge.
Unstoppably burning candles into his eyes.
All right, and you'll use that with your through your special ability. So, so how much does that have as an attack value? Your terrifying? Is it just 1, or is it?
It's just 1. yeah.
Okay, so that is 4, 5, 6. Do you want to burn a spark too?
I use the percussive strike.
Okay.
To add 2 to that.
6, 7, 8. Okay. So 8 minus 4 is 4, which is 1 health level, and you're gonna give him flaming and stunned, which I don't have. I don't know if I have the right tokens for. Hold on 1 second here. Let me tell you what both that does. So you light him on fire. Which is an effect you guys don't often have to deal with because you're mostly fireproof. Burning. At the start of your turn, you suffer. At the start of its turn, it suffers 1 brutal damage for each burning condition affecting it. During its turn, it can take a grace spread. It can forgo all of its attacks to remove its burning condition. Stunned. -1 speed, -2 attack until the end of its next turn. So it is. I don't have a stunned here, but I'm going to. We'll use this for stunned right now. So it's stunned. Very well struck. Do you have any more spreads in you, or are you going to pass the torch?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, so draw back up to 5.
I might like to
thinking?
take
Okay.
that torch.
All right, and
yeah.
pass it to her.
I have a plan.
So I realize that the Dread Knight is absolutely using this mortal to continue to regenerate and resurface. So I've got to get him dealt with. I'd like to use my skill specialty in healing, which is especially good for mortals, and that's +5 to
Okay.
my spread. So what can I use to kind of get this guy?
This is
super
again, it's
healed
a
so he
grace
can't be
spread,
used?
and I'm going to give it a +10 because you already calmed him before. So you're up
Okay.
at a total of +15. So what kind of grace spread can you? put out.
I have so much intellect right now. My grace is just failing me.
But you remember, you can use one card as grace in any spread because
Right.
of your school.
Which is, oh my god. So, okay. Let's try this. I'm going to use my trait card of Mysterious for my grace card because I kind of draw into some like really deep well of knowledge to understand what this guy needs exactly to stop being this vessel of suck.
It's a stretch, but I'll take it.
Thanks. And then all my other grace cards are trait cards.
You can use them as regular cards, or you can justify the traits. And you use that intellect card as a trait too. So does that allow you to draw or anything like that? What is it?
Oh, can I use another card as a intellect card as a grace card then?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to use this as a grace card, and that's the highest
So that puts you like
number I've got.
19?
And just to really deal with him, then I'm going to burn a spark to put it over the
Over to
top.
20? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so he's like, you're calming him, you're healing him, you're laying on hands, and he, sort of just finds it. He gets his footing somehow, and he's and instantly the Dread Knight like goes from being like giant weird skeletal badass to like clearly, slapdash bullshit skeletal creature. It is exposed. And as a result, you see the Dreadnought as he really is. His armor is rusted and piecemeal. His face now, take a spark. His face now revealed is pale and dull with skin like cracked parchment. His eyes, the dull red of dying coals, look at you with hatred, but no longer has the same power over you or the adept. So he is now exposed, which means, I believe, exposed means his card limits. No, he has -2 to defense. So he now has a defense of 2. He still has one more action before he can go again because he's slowed down from your stun. So pass the torch to Mike.
Okay, and I can draw up at this point, right?
If you're done with your turn, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I think so.
And take your cards to the discard there.
Thanks.
No worries. All right, so I've only got my 5 cards. So I'm no longer hidden. Step out of the shadows, come over to the weapon rack. He produces a stylus, and he's like, I think I can cast a rune of binding or something on him. Give me a sec. And I can do...
Anything, because this guy's really pissing me off now.
So his defense is only 2, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. I'm not using this as a trade because it's not a skill spread, but that's 7, and I'm going to bump it up to 8.
Okay. All right. So,
So Ink comes over and he starts scribbling on the guys. He's kind of fidgeting and everything, and you see these weird sort of ethereal wisps of smoke go over the guy's armor and then just vanish.
Okay, so because his defense is 2, and you did 8, that is 6, which takes off 2 health levels right there. And there you go.
Cool.
And are you done?
I am, because
All
I
right.
can't do anything else, and I need to reshuffle.
So
I think.
its action. On its action, it takes 1 brutal damage from being on fire.
Okay.
And then realizing that it's on the edge of death, it spends its entire action clearing the fire condition. It's also no longer stunned, but it's still exposed.
Real quick, this is my last card in my deck.
So
Do I reshuffle it now?
take
or-
the 1 into your hand
Okay.
and shuffle and draw up to 6.
Gotcha. Thank you.
All right.
Keep
So
going.
who took the torch?
It has not been passed yet, but I imagine
you
I'm
want
going to
it?
finish.
Sure.
Because now I'm really done with this.
All right. What do you got? He's hanging on.
Yeah, well, because the rack has worked so well to this point, I'm going to go ahead and smash him against it, and I get all of my wound points
Okay.
here as well. So I'm just going to do an attack spread, the highest that I can possibly
Okay.
go with it. And then it's plus the 4 wounds as well.
All right. Well, that is way more than 2 and way more than 3 again. So boom. And without the adept to draw fear from, he can't recharge, and the Dread Knight is destroyed. And basically, it becomes like a weird, disjointed skeleton just sort of there in the rack.
Fine.
Congratulations on surviving your first combat. Although
Barely.
very barely. Okay, so you can, because you're not in combat right now, if
Well
you
done,
want,
Varya.
you can burn spark. Oh, and take a spark. Take a spark, everybody. Did you take a spark back? Okay, take
Sparks
a spark.
for everyone.
Yeah.
Take a spark back for incredible play. Are you at 10?
I'm actually
Alright.
all
Oh, you're
filled up.
good. So,
Yeah.
and are you at 10?
I had enough
all right.
spreads to be
So-
smashy without using sparks.
So you can burn sparks to take health levels off people if you need to, or to damage levels off people now without having to
Okay.
worry about spending turns to do it because they're sort of between combat.
Okay.
Let me describe more of what's going on. The adept is sort of like it has his shit together. You suddenly realize that like after you've discarded the candles that you look back and they've managed to move themselves to the rack again. Like the power like sucked them over while you weren't looking. So and the adept goes over to it and like starts adjusting the message to the effect of like we're on it. Like to do like
Fine, we're all fine here.
With the battle finished, okay, the building seems to be made from a single piece of polished black stone. The surface of the walls is uneven, slightly warped and undulating. The reflection of the firelight sometimes seems to be replaced by strange images you can't quite place. There's only one exit from this room, a large open arch, and now you notice a thin layer of mist rolling in from the hallway.
Of course.
So, do you want to do anything before you continue on vis-a-vis talking to the adept?
Yeah, we should talk to
Well,
the
yeah. And also, much as I enjoy being wounded, if I had one less going on here, it'd probably be it.
I was going to ask if you wanted that, or if you just wanted to hang for the day with
I'm
it.
thinking that hedging bets, I don't mind dying at some point here, but maybe not on the next hit.
All right. So is this when I can just burn a spark to heal her
Yeah,
one?
you can take.
Okay.
So you're going to take it on yourself
Okay.
and give it
Or,
back
or,
away.
you can let me be.
No,
like,
I'm
that's
all,
cool
you
too.
know, I can get through. It's afternoon now. I'll be okay. Because we like regenerate all our health in the morning.
We
I
No,
guess,
you
right?
regenerate
one
one
health.
health,
One
and
health.
then 2 sparks.
Yeah.
At first level,
Yeah.
we're real squishy for
Gotcha.
immortal badasses.
Okay, because I was like, sometimes should I just let people hang out until midnight and we're cool? All right, so
But you can
Entirely up to you, though.
no, you're
hand
pretty.
these back off to some enemy down the line.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
you take as
exactly.
many as you want or as few as you want.
I'm gonna take one. You're pretty messed up. So, here you go.
Okay. So it took 1. So add a wound to yourself.
And while they're doing this, and Ink is still getting over the fact that Varya is essentially a wolf at this point,
Not quite that much.
I go over to the adept and ask, "What happened here? Where did they come from?"
All right, I'll pause for 1 second. I'll say that while you're enraged, you can choose when healed to like hold the bestial condition or not. So like when she heals you, do you get a little bit more human, or are you gonna keep keep the
Just
beast
a
for a while?
skosh.
Okay.
Oh, speaking of too, because I haven't been describing how my stuff manifests, and we were just talking about that. So when I take and deliver wounds, I sort of create kind of a black hole, and that's how I take them into myself. And then when I send them out, is through that black hole. So I go to her, I create my black hole, I suck it into myself, and I'm wounded.
All right. That power sucks. All right. So thanks everybody that's been saving through it now.
I'd say it's singular.
All right. So what?
May I have some?
No.
Okay.
I need all of them to power the rage.
Is there
Understood.
something specific that you want to ask him before I just give you like the generals?
Yeah. Give me your block of flavor text, NPC.
After a while, you kind of like he's shaken. He's no longer afraid, but he's shaken. You calm him down. He says, "I hate it here. The Empire didn't build this place. They took over an old Scavi shrine to the fallen and converted it to an Eerie. Sometimes I see things in the walls out of the corner of my eyes. Things like that creature." Everyone's been on edge. We're afraid of the bones, but it's more than that. There's a despair that just seems to seep into your veins. It was at its worst tonight. I couldn't explain it, but I knew something terrible was coming for us, and then it did. The front doors flew open, and I saw this man. I couldn't quite see him, but I knew he was a lord or a king, or he had all those knights with him and the people in chains. I remember the moon. The moon itself was hanging over him. The Flamekeeper yelled for me to go and warn Pyre, and so I did. And this essentially happened 15 minutes before you arrived. So,
Right.
like, basically something burst in, and whatever this is still downstairs. He explains the sort of basic, geography of the space. You're in the flame space, which was whatever it was before it had been modified to hold the Imperial Flame. Then sort of down a staircase through that arch is the main room. And then from there, like they're like outbuildings. They're basically just too big. There's like this sort of top room, then down the stairs to like the main hall. That's all they really have in the area, and then the rest of it is all like sort of outbuildings that have been constructed later. The Flamekeeper and any other adepts are still down there. None of them came running up after that. And this fog is not a natural occurrence here. Like the fog that's sort of spilling up the stairs definitely is new. New and terrifying.
But it's already Creepsville area as it was before it was attacked, so I'm really glad we're here for this one.
Ancient temple, things in the walls, creepy fog.
Yeah, it seemed like a really good place to set up an eternal flame and start bringing phoenixes in.
You left the bodies! You moved the headstones, but you left the bodies!
Oh, if only I could give you... I can't give you that many sparks for being charming. All right, so... Your basic choice is to go downstairs either en masse or one at a time. There are literally no other ways out of this room, and you can't go back through the fire.
Right.
By the way, good job, guys. You used all but one of the effects.
And I was going to get around to that if...
I know, I had an idea. I had some questions about the
knocked that
flame, but I had...
down.
Yeah.
Can I go scouting ahead and just get the lay of the land, figure out if there are any other means of entrance to wherever, the killing floor is going to be?
Well, first off, you can definitely scout to see if there's any other way out of this room, and the answer is no. So the only real choice is to go down the stairs. Before you do, though, does your wing want to allow you to go alone, or do you want to head on your own?
I had one.
And this isn't, by the way, one of those like DMs, like weird ominous, like, are you sure you want to let him do that? Hint. I mean, like, legitimately, just you guys are a unit. Do you want to let him?
What the adept said is true. We're significantly outnumbered down there. I'd hate to think of you going by yourself, Eerie.
It doesn't seem to make any sense to me.
I may be able to detect what kind of spirits we're dealing with first, and then we can attack knowing what we're dealing with.
Do you want to do a skill spread to try and read spirits?
I do.
Go ahead. Give me that's a intellect spread.
All right.
3 cards.
So I'm using my skill specialty of spirits for 5. Let me see. Oh, what does that say? Ooh, and I draw 1 card. Okay, and this card, my intuitive cards, adds another 5.
I can see where being intuitive plays into that, so you're fine. So
What does that pick you up?
So 5, 10, 11, 12, 13, 15 for detecting, getting a sense of like I kind of glow and I draw from like universal dawn knowledge to get a sense of like what these spirits are. And I guess my character deals mostly with human spirit, like not as much like fallen folk and stuff, but human spirits. So. But maybe with that, I can get a little bit further.
I'm going to give you like a sort of +5 carry on to another check you'll do later on. So like you basically like you're starting to understand how the mechanics of this magic work here, like that how fallen magic works. So I'll give you like a +5 to hold for another perceptive check later on. Okay. But also you determine that if fear is truly the mechanic that is powering everything here, then the fog you're seeing sort of creep up the stairs is probably of the same general material that was like being pulled out of the mouth of the adept, and it basically is like this is essentially the pink goo from Ghostbusters 2. It is fear goo. It's fear fog, and it probably is something that is going to have some sort of deleterious effect on all of you when you're in it. Because the fog is coming up the stairs, meaning that like a few steps down, it's waist deep. A few steps after that, you're basically going to be in it. So you're able to determine that whatever energy this is either producing this or like this could be the environment from which this fallen lives, which is sort of taking the place here, or that could be like outgassing this from its body somehow. But either way, this is a magical effect, and while it exists in this way, it may either be powering these monsters or depowering itself.
Okay. So would this work? So maybe I go ahead, now that I've got this kind of deeper understanding of it, I maybe go forward and create a force field that just gets us through it down to the main space.
And actually, I had a suggestion sort of on that end as well, because one of my skill specialties is actually fear. So I'm wondering if maybe I can use that to kind of help counsel everybody else on sort of how to fortify against that
hold on that. You will be able to use that, but not in this case. I'll let you make a grace spread to give a sort of bonus against this stuff, but you, as a rank 1 Phoenix, don't have enough raw energy, even if you burn all your sparks, to create a force against this. Like, whatever this thing is, it's nasty. So if you want to make, and you can draw it, by the way. We're not in round action, so you can draw up to 5. But if you want to make me a grace spread, and it's +5 because of your spirit's ability there.
Okay, and so, all right, so I'm going to go with the noble as well, because I'm like, oh, I'll take it, guys. And,
so remember, you can use one card as grace. I think it's grace, right?
In intellect card is grace, yeah.
Yeah, so you can go, and you can use one more because because the grace, the trait doesn't count against it.
Are you telling me though that this is sort of all for naught?
Well, you need to get a high amount. So.
Okay, so that would be 5, 9. 12,
And if we're looking
14,
to just
16.
bump it up, Ink's going to chime in. You know, in other circumstances with supernatural manifestations of fear, I found that these solutions were particularly effective. So we're adding 3 to that.
Okay, so that's 3, 6, 10. What's the one that you're covering up there, that grace card?
It's 4.
14, 15 plus 5 is 20. Anyone else want to add any more to that?
I don't think I have anything I can.
All right, so I'm going to give you guys +5 against this upcoming effect because you're basically using like sort of meta magical abilities against this.
Okay.
Okay, so
Say Wingardium Leviosa.
Wingardium Leviosa.
do you want to head into the fog?
I don't see that we have any other choices.
There are no walk outside. There's like a hallway going downstairs and whatnot.
It's just basically like, if you imagine like someone had a staircase that ends in like an arch and then you're in this room. So it's like a spherical room with the fire pit in it and then an arch, then it kind of goes down a long stair into it's like 2 big bubbles, like dome-ish.
No windows?
What's that? No windows. I mean, to be fair,
And
this was
one
not
door.
designed by any of the people in this building, so they probably didn't think about it. Okay, so as you walk through, as you start to head down into the fog, it sort of has like swirling eddies of like dark shapes.
I imagine it's very cold, too.
It is very cold, and it has like an acrid smell that is very off-putting. And the dark shapes themselves like aren't like insects or birds or something like that. Whatever these things are, as you look at them, they get more and more like clear to you as like sort of manifestations of your own fear. So you know, Ink, you're seeing like sort of like images of yourself, like, you know, like making some sort of terrible invention that blows up the world, or like, you know, you're seeing like sort of like archaic tomes that are locked being unlocked, and it's sort of and you're seeing, you know, you're seeing like the loved ones you left behind in your first life, like, but you can't save them. You know, you're watching, you're like seeing what seems like it gets like a reflective surface for a second, when the reflection back is you even more bestial and clearly out of control. What was your greatest fear?
I think the sort of the people that bullied him, just like large shapes, large ominous.
Yeah, and it distorts the perspective of the room. So like you feel smaller and smaller as time goes on. Like the shadows in the staircase make it look like you're going down. Like the room is growing around you, and it's truly terrifying. So you're gonna make a spread against this fear. It is a grace spread. You must reach 15. It's a spread of 3. You must reach 15, so you're gonna have to burn sparks to get it there.
All of us?
If you can't reach 15,
Grace spread?
it's grace.
Okay.
It must be grace. And if you have, there are some trump traits in here that aren't that can help. So if
Okay.
you have traits, don't be afraid to use them. But
Yeah, because I do.
Untouchable?
let's see. I will let you. What what suit was that from?
This is Grace.
I'll let you take a card from another suit in for that, but discard it.
Well, or I can use it as a value of 5 for a Grace spread.
Oh, then do that.
Yeah,
that's
that's
much
what
better
I'm
for
gonna
you
do.
then,
Yeah,
because it's not. It doesn't count towards this really.
So there's 5.
And you're plus 5, so you only need to reach 10 because you're plus 5 from her.
There we go. There's 10.
All right. Oh wait, but get as high as you can.
Okay. Well, you said it's only 3, right?
Right, but you use
17.
that 17.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
I know.
Drop back up to 6.
Yeah.
So I have 5 from her, right? Mm-hmm. I also, that is one of my skill specialties. So
Fear,
that would
so
give me another
you're at 10.
5, so I'm at 10. So I can go ahead and put down these. This doesn't really help me. It's just a grace card that I
Okay.
had in my hand. And then, can I burn more than 1 spark?
Well, you're at 15.
Yeah, but you said as high.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't burn sparks. You don't need to if you've reached the level.
Okay, cool.
What about you?
Grace. Can I use Resolve as a specialty?
Yep. So that's 10. So you're at 15 already. That's 19. You're close enough to 20 where if you can burn over it, I might do it if I were you.
Yeah, hit me.
All right. So that's 20. Cool. All right. And what do you got? Oh, clear up
Okay.
there
So I've
Can I
got.
retroactively burn 3 sparks to get up to 20?
if you want to.
Yeah,
Oh.
that's what I want to do. Sorry.
Take it.
Oh, that was good.
Actually, here, give me change.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so I've got my 5, and I'm using my intellect card as a grace card.
Technically, that's one more than you can though. You can use one as that, but you're still tied to the spread of to a spread of 3 cards. So,
Oh,
but
right,
so I
okay.
just pulled
Oh,
the
it's a
intellect back
spell.
because it doesn't really help you because it's the same mathematically.
My only trait card is Killer Instincts.
No, but I will let
Okay.
you use your spirit's ability as 5 more.
So that puts you
Okay.
at 20 then.
So that's are you at 20? Because it's 10 plus.
Yeah.
5 plus 5. So yeah, you're
Okay.
at 20.
All right.
So I'm the
good
only
to go.
loser.
No,
that's
it's
not at
18
20.
because she's got 10.
Right,
5
okay.
plus 5 there. So if you want to burn 2
Right.
sparks, you're at 20.
2 plus 1
All
plus
right.
1
Gotta
plus
do what
2.
you gotta do. All right.
All right. So I'll give you 3 back.
You're a spark banker. You're a spanker.
Little green visor.
Okay. All right. So the only one of you that didn't hit 20 was Mac. So you're going to take an exposed for that. So you're exposed, but otherwise you're fine. You're able to push yourself through the fear. By the way, getting less than 15 is death. So you're able to push yourself through the fear, but you do take the exposed condition. So here's what you see.
We draw like a 5.
Yep, draw back up to this. That's a skill spread. Once this was a grand hall. Today it stands bare, floors hidden beneath a layer of rolling fog. The chamber is dominated by a large sculpture formed from stone and steel, an abstraction of a tree. A thick pillar with broad branches extending from it, studded with sharp spikes. People are chained to the tree, Scavi villagers and members of the Eerie staff. You can see the Flamekeeper hanging from a high branch. Though the prisoners appear unconscious, they thrash and moan. A large glass sphere sits atop the tree, simmering with a pale glow like moonlight. It is hollow and nearly filled with darting black shapes. Looking more closely, you see streams of darkness flowing up the tree from the bodies of the victims. A ragged Dread Knight is watching the main gate. That's the other entrance, so he's back to you. Blade drawn, but your eyes are drawn to the figure standing in front of the tree. A tall man carving shallow wounds on the back of a moaning prisoner. The Harvester of Fear wears an elaborate mask, an unblemished alabaster face. Its temples ringed with shards of jagged obsidian in a mockery of a king's crown. One pale and flawless hand holds a long scepter, both elegant and barbaric, studded with the same razor-sharp obsidian of his crown. His other hand is clawed and as dark as pitch, and he uses those claws to drag a long, shallow cut across the prisoner's cheek. His voice is a whisper, but you hear it as if he's whispering into your ear. Don't hold it in. He speaks as matter-of-factly as a butcher calming a calf. The longer you can scream, the longer you'll live. So neither of them see you. So there's a Dread Knight. The Dread Knight is exposed. The fear that he would normally be pulling from to protect himself is all going directly into the globe above him. So essentially, he has no fear to draw from because all fear in the room is heading to the top of the top of the tree. Also in here is the harvester, who is who looks like this.
Yeah, let's see what he looks like. Ooh, not a
Nasty.
Gross.
yeah.
And he has yonder conditions. Let's see here. Okay. All right. So you guys basically have like a leg up on him right now. Here are the things in the room. There are. Hold on. The Tree of Pain, a layer of fog, discarded chains, a torn tapestry, blood, a bottle of Scavi ale, the Flamekeeper, and a ray of moonlight. Some of those are a little obscure, but it's up to you to determine how they play into the like where the ray of moonlight is and how it affects things is up to you. And also remember that it's up to you to like that ray of moonlight can power an ability if you so choose. So they're a little. This is a little bit more esoteric than the last fight. So again, you're gonna act first. And you don't know how quickly they'll react once you do. So what? Who's going to take the torch, and what are they going to do?
And if those people are going to power it again.
Yeah, and if they
it looks like the Dread Knight can't draw that. You would imagine because the Dread Knight looks like it did when it wasn't empowered before that it currently doesn't have that ability. However, you don't know whether or not the Harvester has any sort of functions.
Yeah, and he is otherwise occupied.
And I think breaking open the globe would probably be a bad idea.
What? And do we know if the people, their fear stops being channeled, if that somehow puts them under threat of the harvester?
It might. One of the things I should point out is that you can make skill spreads on your turn to determine more about the scene. So generally speaking, you don't know what the effects are. You do know that clearly, like the fear though is heading up into the globe more than it is to the harvester. It appears, and you don't know whether or not the harvester will turn his attention to people that you like unfear. But these people are more catatonic, so they may not be. You may not be able to like calm them down.
Should probably leave them be until we sort it out.
Who wants to go first? Because I'm ready to go in and beat the shit out of somebody.
That seems like the wisest course at this time.
The glow.
Well, my fear is that all that fear is going to seep out and at least power the Dread Knight. Who knows what it's going to do to the Harvester?
And right now it's contained.
Exactly.
And you remember too that the Harvester of Myth like released a bunch of fear and it killed a whole area.
Yeah.
So.
And with this Flamekeeper, it's immortal. It's not like back at our area.
Well, no, all the Flamekeepers are sort of effectively immortal as long as they're
their
flame, right?
But they're like long-lived style immortals. So like this Flamekeeper will live forever as long as the flame is lit. But he's not unkillable, and if he's killed, the flame goes out.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that would be.
I didn't know freeing him would be helpful.
Freeing him is
help us.
part of your mission is to keep him alive if you can. And for all you know, he might know more about the situation, so there's always a chance that he can help you.
Yeah, and you said he's suspended up on the tree, right?
What does that scepter do?
I'm wondering if we can get him down from the tree and get him out of there quickly.
I think that's a very good idea. I would actually almost put that on Eerie, since you move the fastest.
All right.
We could probably even throw something to, snap the rope or whatever is holding him suspended.
Will taking the scepter from him help any?
Well, there's only one way to find out, but I don't personally think it behooves us to go toe-to-toe with the Harvester of Fear right this moment.
But he'll know we're there once we take the Flamekeeper, I suppose.
True enough, but maybe
unless you do a two-pronged attack, somebody goes after the Flamekeeper and then I go in and I pound on the Harvester.
What if, Eerie, you and Idalia took after the gatekeeper, or the flamekeeper, and Varya and I will attend to the harvester. I can't hit as hard as you can, but I might be able to confuse him just enough to get the drop on him.
Which I would appreciate any edge I can get.
So we go all in. That seems effective.
So who wants to actually start? Do we want to
I'll
attack
start.
him first?
So I should point out here that I'm allowed to disclose to you this information about being exposed. So you're exposed because like you're currently sort of like dealing with fear. So you're like sort of almost contributing to this sort of like fear mist. Like you're unlike the other three phoenixes, it somehow has you. Now maybe you hide it well because you're also like a giant berserk monster, but you basically are affected by fear, and you know that makes you vulnerable. You know that it makes you vulnerable by reducing your defense by 2, but you also know that it makes you vulnerable probably to a fear-powered entity. You can't contain your own fear. There are ways that there are actions you can take which will incidentally remove your exposed condition, but you can also have a friend remove the exposed condition from you by basically rallying you with a grace spread.
I've got
if that person is the phoenix you trust most, who I believe is him, they get +5, which means the grace spread has to be very small.
I got this.
But they'd have to take the action first.
Quick question.
I actually have a card for that.
We're still off to the side observing at this point. Too.
How is the flamekeeper attached to?
Chained.
Chains. Cool.
Oh, effective.
So you have the torch, so what are you going to do?
Cool. I'm gonna go over. I'm gonna grab the ball of Scaviel. Go over and say, drink this.
All right, so
Crying out loud.
Yes.
So cross off the battle.
Courage, eh?
Draw a card. Take a spark because that was charming. Do I even have it here?
I'll trade you.
Okay, here. And so give me a spread of 5 or more grace spread, and Matt can remove the exposed condition.
Just 5 or more?
Just 5 or more. That's all I need.
Then.
That's 5. So good. So you drew from that, and you drew from the. So did you draw from the environmental action?
Yes, I already did that.
And you drew from the 2.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So discard that. Mac, you're not exposed anymore. Good for you.
Thank you. I gladly drink the ale.
All right. And you still can do what
Liquid
you want,
courage.
spread wise.
Okay.
Unless you want to go after the Flamekeeper after we've launched an attack.
Might not be a bad idea. But it's up to you. I mean, what were you thinking?
I mean, just going in and seeing how to take this guy down, take the Flamekeeper down. So
Okay.
not much beyond that. You want to take it?
Sure. Okay. So.
All right. So, and I'm going to say your action doesn't trigger any effects because that all happens sort of before you engage in combat. So the monsters still haven't noticed you. I will put out though that because the room has like waist high fog, and you actually realize that like your like there are like writhing or like dead bodies and stuff like around here. You need to make grace spreads to move to specific places.
Ooh, okay. Well, what I would like to do, or what Ink is going to do rather, he's going to grip his stylus. He's going to attempt to wade through the fog towards the ray of moonlight, kind of drag the stylus through it, make his way to the Harvester of Fear, say, hello there, and kind of drag it across his face, this just ray of light, kind of like trying to disorient him.
Okay,
and get
so
his attention.
I only need a movement of 5 to get to the Harvester. So do you make a grace spread of 5 to get to him?
Okay.
You can go ahead and draw your card right now from using an environmental action and cross off the ray of moonlight.
Okay.
So
I can't make the grace spread though.
you can't get 5.
Nope.
Can anyone help you?
I can help you.
Okay.
I got 3.
How can I help you? I know I can give you something. How much do you need?
2.
2.
2.
Now you could use sparks to make that spread, or can someone use a trait to grant you the ability to like? Does anyone have a
You know
trait?
what? I'll just burn 2 sparks.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
All right. So Here's 3.
Cool.
So you make it to him. So go ahead and discard that grace card. And what is your spread on the attack? And I'll let this be brutal damage because this moonlight has empowered your strike.
I got 7.
7? Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, good that it was brutal damage then, because he has a defense of 6, so that reduces it to 1, but that still takes off a full health level because it's brutal damage, and you sort of like, boom, and you see, and you fancy momentarily his mask cracks and shadows apart, but then sucks back together.
Yeah, it does.
And he is going to engage
Why wouldn't
you.
it?
So you're not exposed, correct?
Correct.
And so we can't use that. All right, and no one is exposed. So he's going to attack you with his scepter.
Okay.
This is a standard melee attack, so the amount of defense you can put up is important.
Okay.
So what kind of defense can you throw against this?
Nothing.
You have no defense against this.
I have no grace cards.
I mean, I can jump in and take it for you. I do have a trait card that allow me to do that.
How's your defense, though?
Negligible.
Well, you haven't started.
great,
You haven't technically started raging yet, so you'd at least have one more in your defense spread.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can get my defense up probably more than you can, because I can do it. Well, actually, I only have 1 grace card, so. But I could still come in if. I think you're going to be more important on this than I am.
Man.
Do you have any? Abilities that you want to use?
Well, actually, wait, shit. Anytime you make an attack while you're hidden, you may add an additional card to spread. I should have done that, but.
Because I can also burn sparks to get a defense spread up if I jump in.
No, if he attacked me and I successfully defended, I could become hidden, but that's it.
Well, go ahead and throw that card into your attack spread that you would have normally done, because if you can get over, how much can you do? Yeah. So you did, that would have been 4. Can you get 5? Well, that you wouldn't have had that.
No.
You want to burn a spark to hit 5?
Sure.
All right, so that'll take another health level off him, which is good news.
Okay.
But he's still going to hit you.
Okay.
And he's going to hit you for 10.
Okay.
Which is 5. Sorry. Well, he's going to hit you. No, he's going to actually hit you for 4 brutal damage, which will take you out.
Okay.
So you're an attendant spirit, though.
So, no, it's okay. So
That's how this game works.
So
Yeah,
Ink runs
it's fine.
up with dragging the trail of moonlight across the foggy room with the evil stuff and the globe of evil and everything, and says something kind of under his breath in a tongue that none of you quite understand. The Harvester of Fear's mask cracks, and with a mighty blow, Ink just kind of crumples into a pile of ash.
But Ink isn't gone. Ink basically, the fire energy, the spirit of the phoenix that animates you is not gone from this world. So you are now an attendant spirit, and you can read up on how that works. Who do you want to attend? Okay, so you can sort of like feel him in the back of your mind, like that he's there, and I believe you can
So
add
unique
1
sensation.
card to her spread. Is that how it goes, or you can burn sparks into her spread?
I can do a couple different things, but it's not in the player's guide. It's in the.
Oh, okay, here. Let's read about attendant spirits because they're kind of
This
interesting.
would be a good time.
Oh,
to
I had a
know.
little thing about it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You can communicate through the host, burn 1 spark to help, and use a trait to increase the spark's value to +2.
Okay.
I should have been the one to eat it. I have so many damn sparks.
Well, it's fine. So you go ahead and draw back up because your turn's over and pass the torch.
Okay.
And now you're out of rotation because you'll just be working with her. So basically, you're working on her turn.
Okay.
The harvester is still up though, and in a big way. He also makes like a sort of pull action, and you can sort of feel. Hold on. He makes a sort of pull action, and you can sort of feel him like trying to like
sure.
draw energy from you, but as none of you are exposed, it doesn't work.
Okay.
And the Dread Knight turns around and realizes that there's a combat happening. Go ahead.
I think I'm going to continue to go after the Harvester, especially I've just seen him take it down, so I'm going to be even more pissed off about that. I'd actually like to use the discarded chains and scoop them up and like fling them around my arms so they're even harder so I can leap up and just
This is
bring
like
it down on him.
Jason Statham 101 here. Okay, sure. Go ahead and knock off the chains, draw a card from that, and then I'm going to let this also be brutal damage because you're lacing yourselves up with the chains. So what kind of attack? Are you raging? Do you go to rage? Okay.
Yeah, perpetually.
So you're raging. All right, so make an attack spread of 3.
Okay, so 3. So I'm going to go ahead and use Ruthless. When you use this card in the spread, you draw 1 card. Card has a value of 5 and you use an attack spread.
I feel like you're being ruthless. No need to justify that. Go ahead and draw a card.
And then I've also got my 3 wounds. And I'm going to go ahead and throw down that strength card and that one.
All right.
So that's 5, 7, 10.
10?
Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering if I burn like a good chunk of sparks, if that's enough to boost to another level or not.
Wait, so that's 5, 6, 7, 8.
Well, this one counts for 5.
Oh, so it's 5 plus 4 is 9.
Yeah.
Plus 12.
And actually,
13,
so
14,
it's
15. It's 15. That's more than 10.
Yeah. Sorry. Brain not working. I was looking at that card.
So it's going to be -6 because the defense is 6. So that is 9.
Yeah.
So that's going to cleave through, let's see, that's going to go through 2 of his health levels. That's pretty good.
Nice.
Okay.
So that's that. Do you have any more spreads you can pull out?
Let me have a quick look-see and see if I can beat on this guy again while I'm here. I don't have a really great spread. I could do another attack spread, but it's not going to be that strong.
Okay.
I'm not going to be able to get it up past 10, and that's burning 5 sparks in one go.
Well, I've got a couple sparks too. Dead anyway.
Does that make
Hey,
sense,
buddy.
though, to do another attack spread and just go for it?
I mean, if you can take him out, you can take him out. Hold on
Yeah.
a second here. Let me. You might have just.
I'm on the ropes, so
Yeah. I can get up to, hold on a second, math. 6.
also
So I could probably do another attack of
that
10.
Harvester of Fear voice was fucking creepy.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
nicely done.
Hold on.
How high do I need to get to knock off that last?
Yeah.
When you get a sec, there is a question about the difference between normal and brutal damage and exactly how that's calculated in the effects.
Sure. Here, toss a health level over there into the zone. Actually, and go ahead and put that one in there too. Phoenixes, monsters and to an extent phoenixes have health levels that have a specific number. So you could have a 3 health or a 6 health or a 10 health. When you do damage, you do an amount of damage minus the monster's defense, and you remove as many health levels as you can completely fill. So say the monster had those 2 health levels, and I did 2 damage to it, I would do no damage to it because I wouldn't be able to get through the first 3 health, so it wouldn't count as removing a health level. But if I did 4 damage to it, I'd remove that health 3 because that completes that level. But I wouldn't remove the health 6 because I didn't get through that. Brutal damage removes any health level that it sort of noses itself into. So if I did 4 brutal damage, I would remove both health levels because I would have snuck 1 damage into that 6, and that's all it takes if it's brutal damage. It takes the
Rounds
whole
up.
level with it. Yeah. It basically rounds out all the way through the lowest possible one. That's how brutal damage is different than regular damage. Now,
Go ahead.
sorry, there's a... he has a special ability that he only uses twice, and I'm trying to figure out how this works.
Get out of parking tickets.
So that one. No, it's Fear Burst. Yeah, okay. So basically, when you create this attack, when you finish off this attack, the harvester like sort of cracks open, and some of the channeled fear that he's like holding into himself like is released. You sort of get a taste of what it's like to have like fear exposed. All of the harvester's enemies are exposed, so all of you gain the exposed condition, and also. None of you. None of you were exposed previously, so that's the end of that effect.
Yeah.
Oh, just
So to do another attack spread here, what number do I need to hit to crack through that last?
he has a defense of 6.
Okay.
You're no longer doing brutal damage, so you basically need to do 12 damage to take this health level off the map.
All right.
And if you can't do 12, I would hold it for defense.
I can give you 4 sparks.
Well, I've got a shitload of sparks here. So I've got, let's see, 3 from wounds,
Can you have back those health levels that we were using for him?
6,
back
Oh,
to you.
where'd they go? There's my 3.
8, 10. You said 12, right?
Yeah, you're going to have to hit 12 to put him down.
And then, so that is, let's see, 6, and then 10, and then if I burn 2 sparks.
That's
it's-
12.
Yep, it gets me up to 12.
All right. So you basically, that ends combat. That is sadly not the encounter. So you the fear burst pushes you back. And why you tell me how are we going to do this? As Matt Mercer says, not copyrighted. Yeah, how are we going to do this? So you've been pushed back. Yeah.
Well, the way that the fear has already been affecting me is that I'm worried about becoming more of this monster, but at the same time, it's the best way that I can save the people around me. So I'm just going to go ahead and lean full into it and just come wailing back around at the guy.
All right. So a terribly bestial creature that you are. At this point, too, like we'll say that if it plays for you, you may not even have noticed this. Like your axe is gone, but you have terrible claws on your hands.
Yeah.
Like
Don't need an axe anymore.
You don't remember where you dropped it or if you dropped it, but all of a sudden you have like these, like the long, really nice 80s movie werewolf fingers, and you just like jump on top of it and pound it. Mike, take this forward as a character thing. You get a taste of like what it's like when she's in full animal mode, which is something you're going to carry with you from here on out. So you know now what this feels like from the inside, and you just basically you get a hold of the mask, your fingers go into the eye holes. It's not entirely empty in there. There's goo you're pushing through, and you tear off the mask, but then whatever was underneath it is like gone as soon as you remove the mask, because basically just more of that like fear gas just goes like, and the whole thing explodes out from under you, and basically it's just empty robes and nothing else. And he has parting dialogue, so get into that.
I'll be back.
Would have gotten away with it.
The harvester succumbs to his wounds, staggering and dropping his scepter. When it hits the stone floor, it shatters like glass. Black mist pours from the eyes and mouth of his mask. Nope. And white chips of dust fall on the floor from his mask, which begin to crumble and peel like parchment in a flame. Even as he crumbles, his whisper is sharp and clear. "This is a mayfly's victory, nothing more." His laughter is a painful rasp. "My hooks are in this land, and these hearts. As long as these people are in this place, and they are afraid, I will return. You cannot defeat their fear." His voice fades with his last words. For an instant, it seems as though he's falling away from you, no matter where you are in the room, and then he's gone, leaving no trace of his passage. The people in the tree begin to stir, moaning in pain. In the upper branches, the glow of the spear begins to fade. The solidified fears then it thrash against the walls, and the sphere begins to crack. So, you are now left with several problems.
Of course we are.
The sphere, which was containing all these sort of diluted fears taken from everyone in this village, is starting to fall apart. You're no longer in combat, so don't worry about moving the torch. Does anyone want to make a skill spread to study the sphere and figure out what's going on?
Unless
love to.
I'm channeling
Okay.
some stuff through somehow.
I could do that since these are still spirits, and
Yeah.
I got that.
Go ahead.
All right, so let me see.
Damn, because that would have been real good too.
Yeah, sorry. You're her buddy right now.
Yeah.
Gonna have our own road movie.
All right, let me see what this sphere is all about. So I use my skill specialty of spirits for +5.
Okay. And you get another +5 carried over from the last time you made the spread, so you're already at 10.
All right. So I can make, this is a skill spread, yeah. So 3 plus I'm going to use mysterious because I am sorting out this mystery.
Sure. that is a.
Because okay, no, wait.
No,
I can do it. This is really weird, guys. I got to delve deep. So this takes a little bit more than I've got. So mysterious. So does that help? No. Let me see. So that's what I've got to sort of suss out.
Okay, so what is the total? 10 plus what?
13, 15, 17.
Okay.
That one doesn't count. Oh, good.
17?
Yeah.
All right, so here's what you know. First off, you know that this is basically like the super weapon that this thing was summoned to create before. If it cracks on its own, it will kill everyone in town with basically solidified fear explosions. Like a necrotic explosion will basically decimate this town, and then it will taint the entire region, basically returning it to monsters and the evil world. And it will probably kick off a bunch of other sleeping fallen things or dread things too. It is definitely the worst case scenario is that this thing explodes as it's going to in some time if you don't do anything. You also know that you also feel that if you were to break the sphere or anyone were to break the sphere deliberately, it would kill them, the explosion would kill them, but they could take the exploded energy with them into the crucible, which would essentially sacrifice you but save everyone. The other option is for all of you or for the wing collectively, to try and bind this sphere to your life force, which would be a very difficult task. But if you did, you could then transport the sphere back to the Grand Eerie, and the high elementals could probably take care of it. But it would probably be seriously draining to you in the process.
And get all the way
and
there.
if it explodes when we get there,
We got to take boats. We got
There's
to take
only-
carts.
there's only one really clear option, and that's to destroy it.
So, but if one of you destroys it, then you have, and unfortunately, Mike's off the table because he doesn't have the. Although he will go with, he's going to die anyway when he uses his last spark. But if you take it down, then he would drop with you. But so one of you would have to basically consume it.
This sounds like a job for Idalia, I think.
You going to do it? Wait,
What-
you should all
what
decide.
else are we doing at this point? Because you can get back to the area probably easier and go ahead and report back on what's going on here. But we've got to take this thing.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The option was that one of us could just take it and sort of absorb it into them.
Yeah, but you die.
Yeah.
So here's the
Okay.
thing. So now we know because of how this game works that there aren't going to be other encounters between now and the way home. There aren't going to be any combat encounters. Basically the game ends-ish here. But that still means that if there are any further challenges, whichever Phoenix goes down with it won't be here until tomorrow morning. It's also important to note that you may carry some of this with you further. It's also going to be a death. It's either going to be a death for others or a death for information. So if anyone's wondering, you'll be drawing from the Devoted or the Shrouded School probably going forward, because you none of the other schools really apply. Maybe Elemental, I could buy that if you. But so if anyone's specifically trying to build a certain way, this is one of those deaths.
So we can all bind it together and transport it
To what point in purpose, though?
to destroy it. So could the Imperial Flame?
Well,
We
it's
don't
for the
know
high
if that's-
elementals
So
or
yeah,
whatever.
if you can bind it to
Yeah.
yourself, which is a difficult job, and comes with a pretty serious failure rate. In fact, Mike, you can make an intellect spread against this if you want.
Okay.
Oh, good. I get to channel the 10th guy.
You're learning so much about each other. It's wonderful.
Would this be lore?
Yes, it is. Go
Okay,
ahead.
so I'm at a +5, and I can use grace cards as intellect cards. So that's 7, 10, 13, 18. Let's make it 21.
I'll let you do the whole spread. You know that
You hear this weird disembodied voice talking to you.
so if one of you decides to take it on yourself, it's going to basically work. Like you're going to take it on yourself, you're going to die, it's going to be removed from play, and everyone's safe. If you try and bond with the sphere such that you can bring it home, and you fail the spread, it will blow up. And then you'll all die, as will everyone in this room and the town, and you'll still have the negative effect. So while the way to do this without dying, without one of you having to die, is to bond to it, that also is the only way that this can go terribly awry. Other than not doing anything for like 10 more minutes, then it will take care of itself.
Sure.
I'm
I'm gonna play a mini game. Thank you very much.
I'm gonna catch this Pokemon, and oh shit. So it's up to you whether or not. The risk of failure is only in trying to bind it to yourself, and there's also there's a whole level of that. There are ways that it will be bound to one of you and not all of you by accident, and that person may drop on the way. There's ways that it's bound to all of you. There's ways that it won't work.
I mean,
I wish you had all just listened to me in the first place. I'm going to do it.
You're gonna do it. Does
Yep.
anyone want to stop him?
Fucking
you know what? No.
Yeah, true.
After all, you
To be
motherfuckers.
fair, he is faster than you.
That's
So.
true.
But I mean, did any of you players want to make a better case for their player? Otherwise, this is going to happen.
Well, I
Well,
mean,
they gotta
not
get-
to throw you under the bus, but it
No,
does
no,
seem
no,
like
I
a really
was-
good death for a devoted.
It's a good death
It-
for a devoted, but they also need to be able to get back and report back safely. They're going to have to go back on foot. I'm the most fucked up here, so my chances of getting across with all the other shit going on. He can move fast. She's able to weave through. I'm probably going to be the least helpful, except for smashing things on the way back.
By the way, this is what happens in this game: is now the party is competing to see who will die. I dare you to find that in another game. So we already know that Mike and at least one more of you is going to go through another crucible, and we're going to do that. We're going to actually level you here today so that people can see how that works.
Trust me, I'm not happy about this either. He says it's these other things, and I would be kind of like, well, it's the only one that makes sense if I fucking do it.
Yeah.
So I could see that actually being another bitter death of like, you know what, I'm just fine.
Well,
Let's
certainly-
do it.
This shit again.
if you guys try and bond the sphere and then it fails, you'll definitely get a bitter death.
Yeah, we're not bonding. We're not bonding the sphere. You guys have a better chance of getting back.
All right, so we agree one of us goes.
So
And I
okay,
see.
so let me start. Your argument is the two of you have a better chance of making it home. Your argument is you should have been allowed to do this to begin with. And your argument is this is what you do: is you sacrifice yourself for others.
This is my jam. But yeah.
This is not binding, but I'm interested. Chat, who do you think should take it? You want to straw poll it?
They have not done anything, but I'll set up a straw poll.
But this would also mean my death would be sort of, I wouldn't be learning anything new.
Well, you'll still pull from the devoted. You'll get further devoted powers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no,
that'd be
you've
cool.
had
You
an
could also-
encounter with the fallen people now.
Yeah.
Oh,
The fallen
You could also
creatures,
call
yeah.
this an elemental death if you wanted to, and then you could pull from that.
Ooh, which kind of applies to how my stuff.
But let's see what the chat thinks. I'm interested in that. So going forward, does this mechanics making sense to all of you in terms of how this game is
I'm
played?
pretty good.
This is what I like about this is a starting adventure. It's particularly dark. Like you kind of have to really push to get through it. But I think this is really a community storytelling game, and so it's about finding out what's going on. I'd be interested if any of you would like to if you want to write a couple paragraphs in your character's persona of how you felt it went and what happened. We'll share them on on the Facebook for Saving Throw Show.
The names again? I'm sorry.
All right, so it is Eerie, who is Robert Chan, Varya, who is Mac Beauvais, and Idalia, who is
that was it.
Tara. So
Idalia.
yeah, it's on. It should be on the overlay.
I'm switching over.
Okay.
I was lazy. I don't type fast if I have to go.
Why don't you break out the cupcakes while we're doing this?
Cupcakes. Let's take a
I
break
could
from
really
death
use
for
a
a
bite
moment.
of it.
Cupcakes.
It's a different kind of death. Diabetes.
Diabetes.
Slow
Diabetes.
down.
I draw from the diabetes deck.
We'll be in the crucible for a while.
So you can put them on the dice cam there. You've actually created cupcakes that are the
Oh my goodness.
the symbols for the various types of phoenixes.
Oh,
Oh, that's so cool.
there's devoted.
This is an angry cupcake.
That's bitter. Shrouded right there.
You put extra lemon in mine.
PDC because Phoenix dot. Then I was like, I got
lemon
extra
rind.
cupcakes. What the hell do I do with it? So there's a ST saving throw.
Well,
cupcake.
before we destroy these, let's take some photos for the Instagram or whatever.
My phone, she's off. No.
You can turn it back on. It's fine. I'll take one too as well. Oh, my phone is reminding me that we're playing the game. Thank you, phone.
I'm glad I was able to help with that.
We're gonna have some firestorm action going on now, you and I.
Well, it'll be interesting if, curious to see how it gets called in this instance. And what schools are absolutely locked in at this point, too. So let me tell you, I really like drawing from the bitter deck.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be interested. I mean, I suppose I could. I could be convinced that, you know, I should post that later. I could be convinced that you consider this a failure.
Yeah, kind of, you know, save
but
the
see,
day, lost the war kind of thing.
The only problem I have with it is that you're deliberately taking the action. So like you're
your choice is noble.
willfully sacrificing yourself
That's true.
for the party. You'd have to really sort of convince me that that is because Varya is like convinced that like it was something you did. Like I failed to fight this harder, but as this is very mechanically something that you could never have prevented.
Yeah.
No,
that's fair too. But I still think even if I have to pull from another school, that it still makes more sense
Yeah.
to either of them.
Well, you remain a bitter forever.
Yes.
Which is both true in life and in this game. Your Facebook is a delightful selection of angry person memes. Is this current or final?
Current is changing.
Okay.
I
How many people do we have in the chat right now?
We 35.
Okay.
Hey. Hi, everybody.
Okay.
Hi everybody. Hand me a cupcake. Pictures of it.
What,
taken.
what flavor do you want?
I'll take one of the non-school ones as the.
Almost 40.
All right.
Oh, nice little silicone
9
cup.
goes
Oh, wow.
I know,
Can
fancy.
someone pass me one?
Nope.
All right,
But
which
try
do
and
you?
tie up other
That was
people to
fine.
Go for it.
Okay.
Bing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have like an early winner here, but I want to give you guys some time to think about it. And again, this is not.
Eating
Not
cupcakes.
binding.
Eating cupcakes while we decide who's gonna die. No.
I won't.
What do you think?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I won't
What do you
force
think?
someone to sacrifice themselves based on chat. I'll add to combats based on chat. So I should say, starting next week and going forward, some of the things that you'll be able to do in this game in terms of chat interaction, which I know is a big part of the Saving Throw family of shows, you'll be able to donate to give draws to the various players. They'll get a campaign coin and they can turn it back into draw a card, which as you can see, as you've seen from times where like Mike died because he had no grace cards, can be super useful. You can also, each one of these characters, much like in our Dark Sun campaign, each one of these characters will have what we're calling a flare, which is sort of like a tuned up version of their abilities. And you can trigger that flare. They're also going to have the equivalent negative, but that's more story based. So mechanically, you can give them like a benefit to their combat, or you can sort of give them like, you know, you make them have like a depressive episode. You can make you know, Varya become a right bitch and like really alienate her friends for a hot minute.
Wait, I'm not already doing that
No,
character?
more so.
First
More
session.
bitch.
It's okay.
All of a sudden, her outfit changes into a dress, and she's like,
Yeah, it's the opposite. Also, as I said, our Patreon backers will be able to construct and tell the story of the rival wing, which we're going to set up as a story element. and the rival wing is another wing that is sort of like around the same level in the Dawn Command that is basically going to be sort of doing what they don't and either succeeding or not. And you can sort of determine, as Patreon backers, you can determine what actions they take or what choices they make, and we'll determine then later who which one does more. All right, so I'm seeing. Is there only 12 votes so far?
Quarter's
Oh, thanks.
about right for us. About a quarter of the people actually vote.
Stage left,
Okay.
stage right.
So I'd say
You're
that's
good.
probably pretty indicative.
Okay, well, let me tell you how it comes out. In last place, with absolutely no votes, is Eerie. Oh, come on. So clearly they don't feel like you should die here.
Favorite Eerie.
Fan favorite Eerie.
Hey.
They don't want you to die, which is weird because you
know,
get
it's
stronger when you die. But whatever,
This whole
Chad.
voting poll
You'll
thing is
come
going to be a
around.
blessing and a curse right now.
Second place is Idalia with 4 votes. And so you made a good case, but with twice that amount is Varya with 8 votes. So again, this is not binding. This is just indicative of what the chat room thinks. So why don't we give you guys one last chance to make cases, and then we'll go forward with it.
So
Or withdraw if anyone wants to put their tail between their legs and back out. Chant.
I resemble that remark.
You still have a few health left. You don't have a tail.
I'm okay.
So my thought's been that if this fear is still kind of fueled by all of the mortals around, that at least as we go back to Pyre, I can sort of heal any humans and kind of quash word, any sort of remaining like fear threats through anyone that we pass by.
So you're saying you're backing out. You shouldn't be the one.
Just because now it makes sense. I'm like, I don't
All right.
really love that idea, but I mean, I can do more good. It's true.
Okay.
Try on the way back.
So it's between the two of you, unless you're gonna.
I still think he can move much faster than I can, and this threat is so great that we need to make sure that everyone is alerted to what the hell is going on here.
God damn it, I was right. I was right at the beginning, and I'm still right now.
All right. Well, let's assume the two of you are going to vote for yourselves. What does your wingmates think? And then, I mean, I think both of you, I think in future games I'll let one of you jump to like throw yourself in front of the literal bus if it happens.
See, and personally, I figured while they were arguing, she was just going to run up and do
And
that.
actually, before it became a whole voting,
can still do
Yeah,
that.
you went
I was
first.
actually just going to
All
go
right.
over there and just.
All right.
We're
So
sitting here like bickering and back and forth.
Yeah,
She was
so-
behind us.
it sounds to me like along with chat, we as a table think Varya probably did it while Chan was complaining about it not being right. He turns around and she's done it.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay.
You knew this was
So you grab the
That's what
sphere.
I'm here for is breaking things.
All right, so, and you're along for this ride too.
Yeah.
You grab the sphere, it shatters in your hands, and you pull the fear energy and all the terribleness into you as it's going. So, like, you feel yourself falling back into that fire, like your world is fire, and you're like, nope, fear, you're coming along. And like behind the fear is like like pushing it in, like ink's like come on, get in there, come on, make it happen. Like you see, basically the crystal explodes, the sort of black energy like flies at Varya, and then Varya just goes like, and just like desiccates into ash and falls down. You know that ash is super useful in spells, so you shouldn't leave that on the floor.
Where are you from again?
Ilona.
Um,
What? What do you got about
No, I'm
Ilona?
I mean, I don't know.
So there's one more challenge before you guys can hit the
I
road.
don't know.
The prisoners finally awaken, and though they are extremely grateful, you can see their fear remains. They have seen the horrors that lurk in the night, and each of them knows the danger could return at any time. And it is this fear that will allow the harvester to return. You can see Adept Kalen doing his best to put on a brave face, but the fear is still there. So you have one chance to deal with this, to inspire the people and convince them the phoenixes will protect them, and there's truly is nothing to fear. You're going to make a primary spread.
Yeah, this is why you needed to stay behind.
Good thing I stayed here, people. All right.
Make sure you're drawn up to full. And then give me the gist of the speech that you're going to make. It's a 3-card grace spread. And I'll take a trait if you want, in terms of if you can make sense, like diplomacy or healing would both work.
Ain't got that trait right now.
Have you seen The Black Death with Sean Bean and Eddie Redmayne and Melisandre in it?
I've actually seen that.
Sounds like I'm
I
making
know.
it up, but
I've seen the
it's actually really
synopsis on
good.
Netflix, and I heard it the opposite. So.
I liked it. I might have been a little drunk, but
Okay, so I know. Watch it, but be drunk.
a little, just a little.
Got it. Cool.
Booty
I'll
Warrior
back that.
415. If you go to good name. If you go to Together Studios, it's the number 2 and the rest of the word together.
Well, the
two
word
spelled
spelled
out.
out.
TWO. Together.
Together Studios. You can buy the game there. That's the only place you can currently buy it. I don't know if, like, a lot of times with these Kickstarter games, like retail stores will back it a bunch of times, so they like have it on delivery. They don't know. I don't think there's any official word as to whether that happens. So I think the only place you can effectively get it is Together Studios.
I mean, if you were watching this at Gen Con right now, does Keith have it there?
I don't know. I mean, they said this specifically. This is the only way. He may have copies of it there, but that said, we're broadcasting like I would say a little bit after they did the big like panel about it.
Yeah.
So they might have sold out there. They can only carry so much. I mean, Keith Baker's great, but he's a little guy. But yeah, you can definitely go there and check it out. I'm sure they'll be reselling it a lot of other ways. Obviously, if there is no way to get it through Together Studios currently, I'm sure there is. But if you need another alternative, as those become available, Keith will tell us and we'll make it clear to you on this show right here or on the Saving Throw Facebook page or Instagram or whatever. Which reminds me, while we are still figuring out how this spread is going to go, that all those @ tags at the bottom of your screen right now are our Instagram pages. Feel free to follow all of us on Instagram. I post, as a writer for Geek and Sundry, I post a lot of pictures of games, so you might be interested about that. And of Dice Owl, my gaming mascot. He's right there. Okay, so
I'd like to take it.
what are you going to do?
So first, just to begin to ease the townsfolk, and since, I guess, learning moment, as a devoted, I have an influence on nature, and I start to heal nature. So I go to the Tree of Pain. I begin to glow, summoning all my sun powers. I place my hands on the tree, and it begins to flourish and heal and look like a nice happy tree again.
Let's put a little happy tree over here.
All right.
And so this
That's ultimately what I want ink to be.
and so this begins to soothe everyone and give them a focus point, and I stand in front of it before I begin to speechify.
Okay. I'll definitely give you. You're going to get +5. Is that your healing? Is you're going to use for that, or is you just doing this as an addition to your use of a skill?
Healing.
Healing. Okay, so this
Totally.
+5.
That's what I'm gonna do.
So yeah, and +5 and draw a card. Good job. Tree of Pain,
Yeah.
useful.
Nice. Very
Okay.
nice.
So this is a 3-card spread. This is a grace spread. Do you have any? If you have any attributes that you feel can be added to this?
You mean from here?
No, I mean traits. Sorry.
Survivor and Blur of Motion.
Okay, no. Although, you know what? I'd take Survivor if you like show I fought it and survived. You know what I mean? Like you can be standing there as like despite being a creepy, terrible monster child, you can be like, I did it, and I'm 2 feet tall.
Say it.
And so
I'm
you
gonna
can
kill
add
the
1
bear.
to her effect. So
What
you're-
one man
you're
can do,
already at
another man
6.
can do.
All right. So I use that intellect card as a grace card.
You're wearing a I fought the dread
Yep.
and lived shirt.
So that's 6 plus 4 is 10 plus 7 is 17. Do you want to
Yeah.
burn a few sparks?
I sure do, because these folks are like
1, 2, 3.
They're really
All right.
feeling it.
Okay, so that is 20. Your speech is truly inspiring. You've instilled them with a confidence that will keep them strong even when the bones attack. This should hold off the return of the harvester by at least half a year, if not longer. Perhaps in that time you'll find a way to end the dread and deal with this threat once and for all. Congratulations.
You guys have 6 months. Use them well.
And you pointing out that timetable makes them very worried.
Well, obviously we must appease the
kidding, I'm
harvester.
kidding.
They start building a wicker man.
All right, so
reminder for 6 months from now.
I was going to hold on to this this until in the event that none of you got a chance to sacrifice yourself today, but I'll give it to the two of you. So you walk home, basically. Well, you don't so much walk home as like you
amble.
Look at the map here.
You Phoenix home?
Nope, there's no phoenixing home.
Creepy spider home.
Yeah.
So you travel home by water, very close to where you are. The map down. Very close. They're up in the north there. Very close to where you are. There is a port, and there's already ships there ready to take you back. Which they're always like ready. Ports are always ready. But on the way to the port, you pass by. You're making your way through the Scavi countryside as quickly as possible, taking the imperial roads to the Red Marshes and the closest harbor. You don't need to sleep, and you need to get back to Pyre as quickly as possible, so you're traveling through the night. It's just past midnight, and you're approaching a crossroads when a woman calls out to you. "Hail, Phoenixes!" It's a peddler, camped at the crossroads for the night. She's dressed in worn traveling clothes with a patched cloak and a wide-brimmed hat. She's rummaging through a large pack as you approach. Her face is not towards you. Do you want to do anything? Like say yes, say hi, keep moving?
Shove her over.
Yeah.
Steal all this stuff.
Yeah. Hit her with a tree, like anything. Okay. Otherwise, I'll continue.
This is your territory, diplomat.
I mean, honestly, I'm pretty focused on the task at hand. Oh God, am I curious? Am I curious?
That feels like you're curious.
Well, she has directly addressed you.
I wouldn't want to be rude.
All right.
All right, sure. I address her. Maybe she knows something, and we don't have ink to help us sort of, find out anything else going on. So.
All right. So she speaks. She's still sifting through her pack. "You've done me a kindness recently," the woman says as she sifts through her bag. "Drove out the competition, so to speak. Created some business opportunities. All above board, of course. Negotiated for. Not like my rival." She finally pulls out a charm and a leather cord. Looking at it, you realize that it's Pyrean steel, the same rare metal that is used in your talons, and the only substance that can travel to and from the crucible with you when you die. "I thought one of you might be interested in this. Give it to someone you know, someone human, don't wear it yourself, and it will save their life, guaranteed. All I need is one of yours, a life. Coal hot, payment up front, no refunds." She finally looks up at you, and you see that beneath her hat, her face is hidden behind a mask of gold, a mask with no holes for her eyes. So you've already done research on the Fallen, so you know that this is the famous Fallen, the Tinker at the Crossroads, who offers a benefit for a price, and that she's otherwise sort of a non-malevolent entity. She's neutral-ish. And so there's stories of phoenixes encountering her before. It's not like you have to kill her on sight or anything crazy like that, nor do you think you could. And so she makes it's a very specific bargain. So if you want to take this amulet, which you can later use to save an innocent, a human, from death, and it will work, all you have to do is give up your current phoenix life. And this is the last thing we're going to do this before we deal with resurrections today. So it's not like only one of you will make it back, but that's actually very common phoenixes wise. If there was a number of doors on the way back, it'd only just be the one. They don't expect all four of you to stride in, like all movie style. They're entirely sure that it will be, there's a single drink available at the bar for most wings coming home. So either of you want to take this bet?
Well, I just know, for one thing, I think it's fortunate that we ran into her, because clearly this could be used for ill in the future. And now we can have this and deal with it and have it in our hands. So.
Do you want it?
If it wasn't for Scavian's need to trade with the dark forces, we wouldn't be here in the first place.
My thought is, with some of our friends having gone on to another rank, if I'm to help them better next time, it'll be useful if I'm a higher rank as well.
You gonna do it?
Do you have any issues with that?
Although, can I interject here? Just ook. Now that's only going to help a human, not a phoenix, right?
Right.
Okay.
But there are a lot of jobs where you have to keep a human safe.
Like
so.
a flamekeeper,
Yeah.
for instance. Okay.
This thing is so powerful that if you give it to someone within a minute of their death, it will bring them back. So it's super useful. And because it's Scavian, really because it's Pyrean steel, you can wear it until then through any amount of deaths. Like, it won't go away.
I mean, it's definitely in my wheelhouse.
I'll even count it as a devoted death for you because you're pre-dying for others.
Nice. Eerie, I know you can make it home safely. I know you will. I'm gonna peace out then. I'm so sorry.
Right.
I feel like you want to be alone anyway, and I'm going to respect that.
All right, so you take the charm, and it and you are instantly like explode into ash. The Tinker at the Crossroads like reaches out a small sack, and it catches all the ash from you and all the ash you had on you from the previous two phoenixes, and she hands it to you, saying
You can do
she
it.
probably would have wanted this, and then like does like a Cheshire cat out where like her body disappears except for her mask, and then it like spins out and it's gone, and then you go and take a boat home. The worst boat ride ever for the people involved, as like the kid from The Ring is. The kid from The Grudge is just like making cat sounds at the captain the whole way through, and they hate that. And you make it home with great success. And even though your rival wing does not currently exist, they would have gotten it if you hadn't. So congratulations, you prevented them from doing one thing. And now we have to bring 3 of you back as rank 2 phoenixes. So the first question we have before I unpack all the crazy cards is.
Crazy kids.
We know that you died a devoted death, so you're going to come back from the devoted school.
All right.
We have some
devoted.
ideas for you.
It's kind of middle ground. I'm willing to hear
Devoted,
ideas.
Elemental, both those would kind of work.
So I think elemental makes more sense for me if I had to pick a school that I was
Okay.
working from.
But you, what do you feel about your death? I could see that as forceful because you weren't fast enough or strong enough. Let me get my
very true.
convenient death list because this happens all the
I
time.
got one.
I mean, I would probably say forceful or devoted.
Well, I would say that, but you didn't die for others deliberately. Like you weren't like, I'll get in the way of this attack so that it doesn't hurt anyone else.
Didn't I?
Basically, it just kind of happened to you because you ran out.
I think forceful makes the most sense, and honestly, for the kind of trajectory I have in my mind for Ink, I think that could have some fun tricks.
Okay, let me get the stats on this because obviously this is the first time we've done this with anyone here.
Yeah.
Let's see. I love this game so much. The problem with the short format books, which actually I prefer for an RPG, like I like these small books, but it also adds so much like horizontal depth that you're like, where? Like at this point I can like pull open to any page I need to in the player's handbook and I'm like, I've got it. But this is like, was it on page 300 or 700?
So much as it is a Boy Scout handbook.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
All right, so, and also because the game has a very unusual mechanic in terms of like how this all works, it's not necessarily like directly intuitive what goes before everything else. That's probably my only knock against this is you're like, wait, is coming back from the dead before the like different parts of the world, or is it after the parts of the world but before the monsters, or is it after monsters? Like I don't think there was a like way to put it in more elegantly than it is. It just is difficult. Okay, so let me just double check here. Forceful isn't fast enough or can't overcome an obstacle. I definitely buy that. You didn't die because of secrets. Elemental is dies for duty as well, which makes me feel real strongly this is an elemental death because it was your duty to do this, and it wasn't like a giant necrotic elemental thing that happened to you. Durant isn't strong or tough enough. If you wanted, dies for others, definitely you. Bitter dies in failure. You didn't. I mean, you could also say bitter. You failed to kill him.
Although you did have a glimpse into what that could be.
Yeah. Well, it's not like you get to choose. Like you know, your death was your death. We're just determining as characters how we feel about it. So you can't like resist the fact that it was that.
Sure. Nuh-uh.
Red.
Eat them all.
Oh, red.
Okay. So
More sugar?
so here's what we're gonna do. So
No, I was getting
your rank
Pringles
increases
till I
by 1. You're gonna get your Talon. So you already have your Talon because your Talon is a famous Talon. And then we're going to go in order of death.
Do we want to reveal that now, or do we want to save that?
No, let's do what your Talon is. Yeah, let's do it because we're sort of teaching people how this goes. So the Talon that they all have been carrying this Talon that like comes back with them every time they get resurrected, and it like is their special secret weapon, and it otherwise has no power effect until rank 2. So on rank 2, you get one of these named talons. It doesn't have to have the name that it has here, but they did sort of name them. This is sort of the Keith Baker way, is like he gives you a suggested story and then makes it open to yourself. But mechanically speaking, they're all the talons they are, and most talons have two abilities, and you do something to flip them. So they start as one. Here, why don't you show yours the flip sides?
So the one that I have, let me get the map out here, is Dream Shadow, and on my turn I can flip it and become hidden, or alternatively, it gives me bonuses to attack, and if I'm already hidden, I get a bigger bonus. So that doesn't suck at all.
So yeah, but so you become hidden by flip it, and then it gives you more abilities once you are hidden. So it sort of gives you a stealthy thing. So why don't you take a look at these? We'll start with you there, and you can pick a talent out of that. By the way, Chan, don't feel bad. If you need to, we can do an off-page death for you, where you can come back, but we're not going to up you this level. Your maximum spark pool is going to increase by 2, so you're going to come back up at 12 sparks. You're all full at health, which is still 5. You get 1 lesson from the school related to their death. So you're going to be choosing from, I'll grab those cards now. You're going to be choosing from.
All right, it was a very obvious choice.
So what is your talon?
Grimclaw.
Okay.
That doesn't sound perfect at all. So I'll put it here. So it's +2 attack, and I can take a wound to flip the card, and then it gives me a +4 attack if I do that.
Nice. Sometimes I feel like if Keith Baker was actually here, he would be pulling sealed envelopes out and being like, I bet you this is your thing, because he's a very prescient gamer. All right, so pick a talent from there. And then I'm going to grab some of these schools here that I have. So one of the things that Keith sort of disclosed to me when we were, or rather to Jen, who is the other partner in Together Games, disclosed to me is that a lot of people who play this game, they don't really want to die because they're so used to it. You're conditioned not to in D&D, and so obviously it can be. Okay, hold on. Let me finish taking these out here. So you're going to take rank 1 or 2 lesson from the elemental deck. It can't be a core lesson.
Well, that's going to be an interesting thing as well for my character, because the Crucible is so different than.
Well, it's still your Crucible.
It's still the same. But do you get?
It's still
this mentorship from the other
no
school. So it's
yeah,
still
I mean,
exactly
so your mentor is your mentor.
Cool.
So, and if your mentor never shows up, then they never do. But whether or not you're in a pool of different elements, and you have to fire and ice are colliding together on some sort of cascade, and you're supposed to just sort of get something from that. Well, then maybe. But
it's a metaphor.
And you said rank 1 or 2?
Rank 1 or 2, and you're going to take one of those.
Okay.
I don't know if there are any there's I think 2 rank 1s and 2 rank 2s in each. And incidentally, the other thing about this is to remember that there's only ever 1 copy of any of these cards, so whatever you pull out,
it's off the table.
Yeah, it's off the table. So you're going to go forceful, yeah?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so take a rank 1 or 2 forceful.
Gotcha.
What'd you go for?
Thought Coil. So once per turn, I can burn a spark to add 5 to a skill spread, which is really nice. And it gives me +2 defense.
Nice.
And so, let me see. So you have to burn sparks to basically use both sides of the card in a turn?
Let me see. So it starts out with you may make attacks at range. You may burn 2 sparks to flip this card. So you can burn sparks to flip it, and then once per turn, you may burn 1 spark to add 5 to a skill spread. So basically, you burn sparks to turn it over. So it's either for your head or for attacking at range. It's up to you.
So okay, so if you're starting with this during a turn, if you happen to want to be able to access the other side, you've got to burn 2 sparks to get into. Okay.
Go ahead and take a 1 or 2 out of that. And then once you guys have them, let me know, or let the chat know and tell us why.
Oh, you mean rank 1 or rank 2?
Any rank 1 or rank 2.
I chose
these are
Quick
all.
Study from the Forceful School. The flavor text on that is, when you make a skill spread associated with scouting, add 5 to your total. I might try and game that to work on spycraft or observation. However, Once during your turn, you may draw up to 2 cards after making the skill spread. You can only draw as many cards as you used in the skill spread. So that could effectively double a spread, which is pretty handy.
Yep, and being a quick study does make sense for your character, so that's definitely valid. What do you got?
So if it wasn't bad enough that they're attacking a werewolf, this is one where if they hit, they could possibly also catch fire.
Okay.
So it's Shield of Flames. When you're struck by an attack, you may burn 2 sparks to give the attacker 1 burning condition.
Nice. I'll special effect that to be any sort of element you want it to be.
Awesome.
So if you want it to be like fear gas, because that's what did it to you, it'll still be the flame. It'll still be the burning condition, and it will still affect it as the burning condition. But it's basically.
I like the idea of it being fear, actually, because that blends in well with that and meshes nicely with my skill specialties, which include fear.
So sure. So you have like dark spectral fear energy pouring off you. You're also going to come back with another ability, but we'll talk about that in a second. And what do you got?
All right,
I don't know either, man.
I think I'm just gonna go full devoted and be that guy. Blessing of Vigor. When you make a skill spread associated with healing, add 5 to the total. And during your turn, you may burn 1 spark to allow an ally to draw cards until they reach their draw limit, which I think could be really helpful. Could save some lives, guys.
Yeah, that's
I like
great.
that you took that a lot.
Yeah.
It's really great.
All right.
helpful.
So also there are some. Specific conditional cards, which I think I have. Here they are.
Oh, wait.
So, wait, is that not it? Sorry, I'm gonna have to find it. There are like actual cards you get from specific interactions, and you're dragging that fear in with you counts as one such. So let me get through all of these first. These are all the various school things that you're going to need as well. Yes, horrific vision. When you use this card in an attack or defense spread, both you and your opponent are exposed. So this is that adds to your deck. So basically, because you took the fear with you, you now have that sort of story element.
Yeah, but it's a blessing and a curse.
Yes, exactly that. It is a blessing and a curse.
Well,
Let's talk a little bit more about leveling up here. So, you're going to each take a 5 action value. Oh, sorry, wait. I gained 1 lesson. From 1 of the 2 suits associated with their school. So you're going to take, Mike, you're going to get a 5 from, where do I have those? And the other problem with this game is that there's so many cards, which is definitely a good thing.
Yeah.
But man, like when you're trying to find the card you want, I think they're at the back of this. I've created my own organization system, and I already realized that I failed at that. So
it will be a bitter death.
So your Patreon dollars can go to getting Sachs organizers for all the cards, making this part that much more streamlined.
all right, so do you want to take a 5 in intellect or grace?
Grace.
Grace? Okay, so here's a 5 grace.
Grazie.
Do you want to take a 5 in intellect or grace?
Grace.
All right, here's a 5 grace. Do you want to take a 5 in strength or grace?
Strength.
All right. Here's a 5 strength. So that adds to your deck. And then last but not least, at each odd rank. Okay. So you don't get an additional new trait this rank. It's next rank that you do. And you cannot remove any cards until next rank, and that's what you get. So that is your level up. So that is but here's the real question, and I don't know how well the chat remembers exactly what you look like before, but what do you look like now? And remember, this isn't necessarily like some reflection of the lessons you've learned as much as it's like you moving towards your ideal self. So if anyone wants to jump in, your character's ideal self, not your ideal self. We all know what that would be, Mac. It'd just be another werewolf. This game is too easy.
But she's definitely doesn't have to worry. It's not as much of it's like basically when she takes on 1 damage, that kind of metamorphosis is sort of how she's starting to look without actually being damaged. So she'd come back. And she has, more of a gray fur, cloak on, so her hair would start to gray out a little more, the color of the fur. Eyes are a little more yellow, so everything's just the volume dial is just cranked up one.
Cool. What about you, either of you?
I got one.
Go for it.
So now, so my skin's a little bit bluer, my eyes are a little bit more nebulous, and my hair kind of begins to take almost a little more life of its own. It just sort of seems to move slightly independent of me, just a little bit, you know. It's a little more purpley and stuff. So yeah, just a little bit.
When Ink comes back into the world from his crucible, he himself is a little more transparent, and his cloak has kind of a shifting field of like letters, runes, or something.
Ooh.
Very nice.
Yeah.
All right, so that is basically the end of this session of Phoenix Dawn Command. We by no means have to fill out the next hour for which we're scheduled, but if anyone, including the chat, has any questions or thoughts or whatever about the game, we might as well answer them now, because part of this is showing people that this cool game exists.
Yeah, this is really fun. I don't think I've ever played anything that had these mechanics, and it's so much easier than jumping into even D&D or a lot of the games we love. This is so much simpler.
Well, and I
but
know,
not in a boring way.
Yeah, no.
I know when we did our first test run, we were all kind of like, oh, what's going on with this? And it's because there is kind of, a cultural knowledge for the tabletop community of like the D20 system. So when you come into something that's not that, it is kind of harrowing at first, but this is really just super great.
Well, it's a story.
Yeah.
Well, and it's the great thing about it too is I think it's balanced-ish well. So like you don't have to worry about it being threatening. You know what I mean? Like in a game where you have a lot of control over yourself, I think there's a lot of fear that you will like. Well, if I have this much control over the story, why would I ever like die or nothing will ever harm me? And then no, this game does a pretty good job of being like, when this story effect happens, make everybody's life a little less fun.
Yeah, and actually when you kind of that there'd be like somebody's gonna definitely eat it in the end. I was like, oh, it's not gonna be me. And so to find that I'm like, you know what though? At the end, I'm kind of surprised, and it's interesting the way the story kind of takes you to that, and it really sort of, as you go, it's kind of neat how you get a sense of like who you are and how you guys interact and what becomes important to you. And I think the world is really cool too, just reading through the book. It's a really neat world. Yeah.
I think there's a desire too as a game master to be like to describe for the chat like every little inch of like the world that we're going into. I think part of that is you have to buy the book and read the book like to get it, but also just generally we don't have time for that kind of stuff, but it is really well designed. And that's sort of Keith Baker. That's why Keith was so successful, I think, with Eberron, is that he built Eberron like every little fiber of Eberron, every city has a story, and every and landmarks and stuff like that. And so I think there's something really valuable about that. There's definitely enough. Not only are there there's the game here. There's like a 20 mission, or I guess maybe not 20, 7 mission. There's a 7 mission adventure. We just played the first one of those. I think we're gonna play the second one. The monster in the second one is my favorite of the monsters, and I sort of want to make a campaign about it. So I think we're going to do the second one next week, and then start progressing along the fighting those monsters. Tara already got a chance to guess what that was by putting a post on Facebook. I'm not going to tell you guys yet, but and that's a really interesting adventure. And we're also going to talk about because we're doing this sort of in a theatrical context. All of the first 4 adventures, we're going to meet a little bit of the final death of one of the players and find out what their crucible was like, and like use that as a sort of way to explore those stories. And these adventures, if you play them at home, more than the 2 that we're going to do, also are designed each time to pull a little bit more out of you. So this one is like, hey, what is everyone afraid of? And who is everyone bonded to? And then the next one will ask more questions of you. And then the one after that will ask more questions of you, until by the end of it, you've really fleshed out a character. And I don't know to what rate we're going to see these characters dying too. I mean, obviously we hopefully not, most of you every session, because then this game will be over in 7 weeks. But but I also think that generally the charm of this game is too, next game you're going to probably feel a little bit more powerful until you stop, until till halfway through the adventure where it has been written to sort of ramp dramatically, and then and we also saw what happens a little bit with Mike when you die. You happen to be hanging on as an attendant spirit, but there's no guarantee that you're going to, which means that you could just be sitting out until the next dawn. Any chat room questions or anything like that?
No, people seem like they're really interested in it. There's a lot of talk about how it has a different RPG element, different vibe. People are calling out other things that makes them think of like a deck builder card game, but with the RPG element. So there's just a lot of talk, not a lot of questions.
It does feel a little bit like a weirdly like a board game or whatever, like even in the box when you get it. It sort of has that feel. And it is sort of interesting because it is a deck building mechanic. It's a very, very slow one where you're sort of adding to your deck with hopes of drawing the cards you want. And then next level, all of you that reach rank 3 can pull a card out, which means, except for Chant, whose character is incentivized to keep 2s, you can drop a 2 out of your deck, which means you'll be more likely to draw cards that are useful, which is basic deck building 101. It might as well be a game of Dominion. What about you, Sam? I mean, you play games more than most. Sam, famous for the Pizza Games and Zombies podcast, soon to perhaps be visiting us here at Saving Throw Show.
Cool. I mean, I'm still getting the tech side of this. Gaming myself, so paying attention to the game mechanics is a little sidetracked for me. But it's interesting. It's neat.
It's fun. I really like it, and I'm glad we could bring it to you folks back home. So why don't we do this? We'll wrap up with this. First off, everyone, I do encourage you to write a paragraph or a page about how you think your character interpreted this. We'll post it up. It'll be on the Facebooks for anyone who does in the next couple of days. Obviously, it's a weekend. Don't strain yourself. We'll be back here next week with another adventure. Between now and then, I'm going to put in all the ways that you folks at home can mess with us in the chat. You're going to find it's a lot less than other games, only because I think this game is so much about allowing the players to decide when they die and everything. I don't want to change too much of that. I want to give them a chance to be cool if they need to be and die if they also feel they need to be. But also to let you in the chat sort of determine how things are going and where things are going with that. So we'll give you one more chance to go around the table. You can tell people where they can find you. Of course, your Instagram is right under your faces. And also, if you don't have anything specific to plug, tell them some cool thing to find, because I always like that too. If you want to give them a reco.
You first.
Oh, okay. Well, again, I'm Mac Beauvais of Strange Like That, so you can find me anywhere online as Strange Like That. And actually, I forgot to mention it. If you are into podcasts and you like Disney news and drinking, I actually do a podcast called Disney Distilled, where we talk about Disney news and we drink a drink that is either served in Disney parks or that is inspired by it, and we tell you how to make it at home if you'd like to drink along with us.
That is excellent.
I'm at 999 RPMs, I think, most places. I also have at least 2 podcasts. If you watch this later, there may be more. Currently, there's the Science Jerks at thesciencejerks.com, and there's what's the other one? Oh yeah, Knowing Is Half the Podcast, where we watch old episodes of the 80s G.I. Joe cartoon and talk about it.
I've got stuff coming up though, so it's like not really anything that's a go check this out yet, but soon. And at Public Terra Vision on Instagram, and then the stuff I said earlier.
And I'm at Michael R. Holmes on Instagram, and I too don't really have anything super special going on right now. I promise I'll be more interesting next time.
No recommendation?
Well, I mean, I'm already kind of getting in a weird Halloween-y mood. So if I were you, track down the radio broadcast of the Dunwich Horror on the horror.com radio website or something like that. It's out there. Google it. Trust me.
Nice.
It's great.
Coming up here on Saving Throw Show, we have, I believe, we're still going to do proficiency check on Monday. I think Dom is going to pull himself together from having been at Gen Con this whole time and talk to you about what happened there. Also, that is a knick-knack on every corpse, which is Megan Cave's Fallout 4 stream along, so check that one out. Tuesdays, I don't know what we're doing this Tuesday. Wednesday is probably Barky's Brigade again, which is good news. Probably with more of the regular cast, because definitely more than when we did Roll for Shoes, because they're back from Gen Con. We'll see. They'll probably have stories. Arky Barky costume, if you haven't seen it yet. She had her costume made for her barbarian. And then Thursday, we know you're watching Critical Role, so have fun with that. if they can be bothered after doing another live show today, which I'm sure was huge for them. Friday is going to be our, that's Black Bag, which is our Call of Cthulhu, but in the modern era one, where things get more and more fucked up. I think they're currently being pursued by a woman made of goo to try and have babies with them that are less gooey. That is a really like mind-fucky game. Next Saturday, of course, will be our Dark Sun campaign, where you can be part of the Patreon and be a sorcerer king and fuck with the players, and then us. So that's the show. My recommendation is that if you haven't watched Stranger Things, what the fuck is wrong with you? It's fantastic.
Just started. Oh my god.
Yeah,
So
it is.
good.
Yeah, get into it now, because how long can like the spoiler gates be held up on this poor thing?
Hashtag justice for Barb.
Tuesday is Jordan's show, Adventures in Adventuring.
Oh, okay. Which is that him reading choose your own adventure books?
He's playing old like Sierra adventure games.
Oh wow. Okay,
Oh,
Sierra
nice.
Adventure Games. That's nice.
Now, I think.
I think inspired by the Stranger Things, I think I'm going to create a class called Barbarians. She's great. And that's all from us. So please keep watching. Please check out the Phoenix Dawn Command. Please tweet about the game.
Yes.
The more people play it, the more cool shit they can make for it. We love you, Keith. We love you, everyone who is involved with the making of the game. And we'll see you next time here on Sammy Throw Show. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Hopefully.
Don't forget to kill Mike.
So about those.